evening. As you are probably aware, Dr. Pilara completed her service here in the West Orange School District at the end of October. And we wanted to invite her tonight to acknowledge her service. And so I just want to provide a little bit of just a very brief background. So for those of you who are not aware of, when Dr. Pilara joined our district. So Dr. Pilara started her career in the educational service field, if you will, in 1978. She was placed at Kessler Institute doing cognitive rehab and bedside instruction with patients there. She came back to the district as a paraprofessional when her children were young, babies, in fact. And 1988, she became a special education teacher at Redwood and then at Pleasantdale. Now, Kelly, of course, became an LDTC on the child study team in 1995 at Washington and Hazel and out of district. Subsequently became the supervisor of special education in 2005, and then the principal at Pleasantdale, Kelly, in 2009. And she jokes they would never let her drive the school buses, or else, she might have done that too, right? But, to speak of these many positions that Dr. Pilara served doesn't really speak to the impression and the influence that she brought to the district on so many children, so many staff members, which is just really in her compassion, her heart, and the love that she brought to the district and the people whom she served on a daily basis. I think this was one of her parting videos to her students. And if I just have Ms. Graftisa cue it up, because I think it really encapsulates, the essence of Dr. Pilara as a person, as an educator. So Ms. Graftisa, would you?
Absolutely. Please, just someone give me a signal if the sound does not work on your end. It should.
Hi, Kelly kids. It's Dr. Pilara here one last time. I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to miss you very, very much. But what I'm going to leave in the office is my container of seashells, because I wanted to talk to you just for a minute about seashells. Seashells have long been known as a symbol or a sign of a pilgrimage or a journey. It could be a journey to a place that you don't know, a place where you can learn new things, or a place that has been forgotten. Soon, you'll be coming back to Kelly Elementary School to learn new things, and maybe some things that you forgot. But I want you to remember that all of these shells also, even though they're a sign of a journey or pilgrimage, think about your future, what you can learn. When I look at them, I notice that they're all different. They're all different colors. Some are light, some are dark, some are curled all up in a ball like that. Some have little prickly sides, like this one. Some are white on the top and brown inside. And some of them are a little bit broken. Like this one here. This one's a little bit broken, but it's still very beautiful. Shells survive the test of time. They've been worn down by the ocean's water. Sometimes there's little sea creatures that call them home, and then they move out for a bigger one. So they tell a lot of stories, seashells. And that's why I love them so much. Just like you boys and girls, you tell a lot of stories too. And that's why I love you so much too. Please don't ever forget to tell your story. Your voice matters. And just like my shells that are very, very different, every single one of them in this bucket here, all very beautiful and different, just like you, don't ever forget that You have what it takes to succeed, to soar like an astronaut. You are beautiful. Inside, like my shell here, and outside as well. I will miss you very much. I love you, and I will continue to love you every single day. I will be thinking about you and how you're being respectful, responsible, and safe, and how you have been a gift to me. Be well, be strong, learn something new every day. Don't lose your voice. I love you.
And so that's this, so many wise words. And I think when you watch that video, you see really a true elementary educator, and an educator, an educational leader who truly loved her children. We miss you already, Dr. Plard. And so on behalf of the Board of Education, I would like to present you with this Distinguished Service Award, presented to Dr. Joanne Pallara in recognition of your 34 years of exceptional leadership and devoted service to the children, families, and staff of the West Orange Public Schools. Our district can never replace your efforts. We can only learn from your example. Congratulations, Dr. Pallara, and thank you so much for everything you've did. We know that you will always be a part of this community, and we know that you'll be back. You'll be back to visit. But at this time, I would just first invite Mr. Alper and the board to say a few words, and then afterwards, we would invite you to speak and say a few words to the community that you love and have served so with such dedication. Mr. Alper?
Absolutely. Mr. Rothstein, would you like to kick it off?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Wow, Dr. Pallara, I could watch that video every morning, and I think it would help me do better in my daily work, getting started off that way. You know, I want to start off by saying that I read the article that was written about you that's on the Board of Education website, and was so incredibly moved by it. For anyone in the community who hasn't seen it, look it up at woboe.org. It's called Leaving a Legacy of Kindness. And I'm just so impressed by what I read and what I've learned about you now just in the past few weeks. Your ability to create metaphors as an educational tool. You know, the filling buckets and the seashells that you just mentioned. Such a powerful tool. The gift of leadership and competence that you provided to the district and to your faculty and staff. The gift of care and kindness for your students and your faculty. And it's just such an incredibly valuable legacy to leave behind, especially in these challenging times that we live in. And so I just wanted to say thank you very much for what you've given to West Orange and to our students, and wish you the very best in your retirement. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Trigg-Scales.
Dr. Joe, you know, you became my Friday night football buddy. And I miss you so much, but I know that next season you'll be out there with me with your pink Converses on, your Chuck Taylors. You're a very, very special educator. I believe the best job in the world is being an elementary principal. I'm kind of choked up after watching your farewell to your students because it was so heartfelt. But you're a gem. And we know that gems don't fade. We just keep polishing them and they get brighter and brighter. And you are definitely a gem in West Orange Public Schools crown. And you will hold a special, special place in all of your students' hearts. You know that. Part of the joy of being with you at those Friday night football games was when we went to get our hot chocolate. And it was Dr. Joe, Dr. Joe, Dr. Joe, Dr. Pallara, Dr. Pallara. You're just so beloved. You have left an indelible mark on the hearts of all of your students. and certainly in the West Orange Public Schools. And to say you'll be missed is a gross understatement. So be well. Enjoy retirement. I call it that place where every day is Saturday. It's a wonderful place to be. I'm still practicing how to get there on a full-time basis, but you enjoy it. You enjoy it. You deserve it. You are loved and you are sorely missed already.
Right, Ms. Merklinger.
So, Dr. Polera, just wow. I mean, to Gary's point, the article was just so touching and just so impressive with everything that you've brought to this community, and definitely have touched so many students and so many families, and just the caring and warmth that just comes from everything you do. And I'm very fortunate to be able to call you a friend and a mentor, and I appreciate everything in your guidance. With the Board of Ed and questions I've had about the district and just everything that you've been able to provide, just everything so heartfelt and incredibly generous of you, and just how much you care about the school itself and the community. It's just overwhelming. And so I don't want to go too much because I will get emotional because you are going to be missed greatly. But as we say in West Orange, you are always family. So you will never, ever be forgotten, and you are always going to be a part of this community. So you will not be forgotten, and you will not be too far from us. So thank you for everything you've done.
All right, Ms. Tunnicliffe.
Thank you, Mr. Alper. Oh, Dr. Joe, we go back a few years, and that video, I saw it before and it still brings tears to my eyes. And I was proud to serve as your PTA president for several years and work with you by your side. From the day I heard your read the story to the children when they came in for kindergarten orientation and about the bucket filler, and when you'd read that to the parents and let them know, it set the tone for their education and for what they were going to receive at Pleasantdale/Kelly. And I think the students who got to have you as their principal are better off because of you, because your loving kindness, because of the morning announcements that you used to say every day, and have a little bit of inspiration and love that children so desperately need. And it just set the tone for every day of a warm and nurturing environment. And I was so privileged to have both of my boys go through school under you. And I think Liam started kindergarten the year you became the principal. And I remember when his promotion ceremony, you talking about that. And so it's with so much gratitude and love that I wish you a wonderful retirement. I hope you get to relax, truly relax, and enjoy all the good things that are coming your way. And I'm so proud to be a Kelly mom and to be your friend. So thank you. We love you.
Williston.
I don't think she realizes.
Andre, if you have anything.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Said.
Sure.
No, Dr. Joe, I don't know you, but that video definitely took me and Olivia to new heights on the emotional scale. It sounds like from everyone saying you've definitely had a major impact on all of the kids, and it sounds like they will be better off because they knew you, and they will have a good experience in their life because they knew you, and they can refer back to their elementary school principal and say like, hey, she was a great person. I really enjoyed her. And I hope you enjoy your retirement and it brings you a lot of joy and peace.
Great, thank you. And Dr. Joe, every one of us in this district is going to miss you, from, principals who you've mentored and other staff to, those of us who've gotten to go to your International Foods Day and talk to you. And, I'm going to miss you on the sidelines as well. It's just not going to be the same without you, there or anywhere else in West Orange. So, best wishes to you and congratulations. Dr. C.
Dr. Joe, at this time, I would just like to invite you to say a few words.
Okay, it's got to be only a few because I'll start to cry. I got into this profession because my mom was a teacher, and my grandma Joe was also a teacher in a one-room schoolhouse in Long Island. Anyway, they taught me to love learning things that are new and to respect education and to value it. And to really understand that education is a life changer and a world changer. So to those of us, all of us in West Orange and all across the country who've chosen to teach, it's more than a profession, it's a belief. And it should be a belief that we can make a difference in somebody else's life. And that's why we've chosen this most honorable profession. I'm honored and humbled by the trust that the Board of Education has placed in me over the years to allow me to grow into all of those positions that I was lucky enough to serve in our township of West Orange. I'm humbled by the staff members, the teachers, the parents, everyone with whom I've had the honor to work over these years. And I am filled with incredible love for every child that passed by, even the ones that really were struggling. So they were the ones that need you the most at that time. So you find it in your heart to be compassionate and patient and help them through everything. This is unprecedented times. We use that word a lot. And I see that our staff is really working on an unprecedented level to try to present and prepare academics for all of our children and the best they can. I've been blessed with unprecedented joys working in West Orange with the people that I've met, the teachers that I've worked with, the Board of Education members, and yes, Ms. Triggs Scales, standing on the sidelines for the football games. I'll be back once this pandemic is over because you never know when the football team might need a little advice. Anyway, it has been my ultimate joy. It's been my joy to be part of such a dedicated, compassionate, creative group of parents, teachers, staff, and students all these years. And I'm going to miss everyone. I already miss everyone terribly. I wake up in the morning thinking about the children. How are they doing? Are they able to get onto their computers? Is everything working okay? Who needs an extra hug today? A virtual one, even, whatever. But I have been so lucky to have something that I love so much that makes saying goodbye so hard. And like the Irish blessing says, may God hold you in the palm of his hand until we meet again. So I am just overwhelmed, but thank you so much. Thank you for letting me be a servant leader in West Orange and fulfilling my dreams.
Thank you, Dr. Joe. And just a couple of just brief remarks. And then I'm going to turn it back to Mr. Alper. And I do believe we're going to open the public comment section up initially just for folks who may have come to honor you and to share their regards. But all I can say is I'm privileged to have had the opportunity to work with you, Dr. Joe, even just for a brief period of time. We were exchanging a text the other night, and you were, as you always are, very empathetic and offering support. And I said, I'll be all right because you've been an example of that, of persevering through challenge, persevering through tough times, and remaining always hopeful and always positive through that. And I'm a better leader, a better person for having had that example if just for a little bit. So, but I know this is definitely not goodbye. I have a feeling that we're going to be seeing you from time to time. And as I said, that offer for a substitute elementary principal, once you're able to do it, still on the table. So we need some capable substitute assistant elementary principals. So thank you, Dr. Joe, and we're hopeful that this recognition tonight, and of course we all wish we could have done it in person with hugs and things of that nature, but that it maybe brings some level of appropriate closure to your time here. So thank you. And at this time, I'll turn it over back to Mr. Alper.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Joe, that was beautiful and, really perfectly said. We're going to miss you. All right, at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to open up for public comment only for folks who want to have some well wishes for Dr. Polera here. It'll be 3 minutes like usual, and let us know who you are and your address. And after that, we'll get on with the rest of the agenda, and then we'll have the regular agenda comment for anything else. But for right now, just anybody with any wishes for Dr. Polera, please go ahead and hit the raise your hand button.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so if we have anyone who would like to, yes, we have Kelly Mcgovern. If you can please follow the prompt that is on your screen.
Am I good? You guys?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
So my name is Kelly Mcgovern. I teach 3rd grade at Kelly Elementary School, and I just wanted to take this quick opportunity to publicly thank Dr. Polera for her leadership, her support, and most importantly, her friendship. She is absolutely irreplaceable, as we've mentioned, and as a staff, we can only thank her by learning and leading from her amazing example, which we promise her we will do. A lot of the board members on here spoke about the amazing impact that she has left on her students, which is absolutely undeniable. But I just wanted everybody to know, as a staff member, she has certainly left an indelible mark on all of us at Kelly, and she is already greatly missed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next, please, if Joyce Soto can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Hi, I just wanted to say to Dr. Polera, I'm so sad that I haven't had a chance to see you this year with the pandemic, but I loved working with you and my time at Pleasantdale and now Kelly. You were such an inspiration, and I miss seeing your smiling face. I'm going to miss it when we actually go back into school, and I want to wish you the best in retirement. You deserve it, and you are a wonderful example to us all. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And Kim McDonald, if you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, Dr. Polera. I just wanted to say, you know how much you mean to me. You gave me that chance all those years ago. I think it's now 12 years ago as a student teacher at Pleasantdale. And now I have the honor, well, I had the honor of working under you as a 4th grade teacher at Kelly. And, you know, words really can't say it. And I just want to thank you so much for everything. And I wish you the best. And again, you've been a wonderful mentor and most of all, a wonderful friend. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we just have listed as teacher. Teacher, if you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
I can. Joanne, it's Mark Maniscalco. I am calling in because I could not miss this. You are a prize for this district. You have been a good friend to me, to the children, to the staff. On behalf of the WOEA, I thank you for everything you've done and all the leadership you've brought. And on my own behalf, I thank you for being just one of the finest people I've ever met.
Okay, thank you. And do we have anybody else? Using the raise your hand button. And if you're one of our call-in, we have some call-in attendees, it's *9. And just personally, I would never do this, but Dr. Joe, it's been really great working with you, especially on all the PBSIS videos. Loved working with you. And I thought it was just really great. So I want to wish you very well in your retirement. And I'll have those videos to look back on you fondly, because I'm sure we'll be doing more of them. Lisa, If you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Sure. Hi, Joanne. It's Lisa O'Kyle. I could not forego this opportunity to just tell you publicly, as I'm sure you really already know from this wonderful tribute, and of course the Flipgrid video hug, which I had to watch every single one. I'm exhausted from watching them all, but every single one had certain themes that went through. As I'm sure you know, but everybody else doesn't know, there were about 50 staff members that made videos for her. And they were the most touching. They were all about her warmth and kindness and wisdom and everything you would hope for, but can't believe it could really happen in your principal. I said, first, we all loved the morning messages, which I know Ms. Tunnelcliffe mentioned. And it's so true. I said, not only for the children, they got a lot out of it, but I think the staff got even more because there were life lessons in every single one. And I originally had really wanted to make a compilation of all of them years ago. And I'm so sorry I didn't, because they were wonderful words of wisdom. They were great. And also, you always knew that anything that was going on, Joanne's door was always open. I said, of course, if in case it was closed, because someone else was in there talking to her, trying to solve a problem, just to shoot the breeze, whatever. But you would wait your turn because it was always worth it. When you went out, you always felt better than when you walked in. And I just want you to know, as everybody else does, is that you already are missed. One adorable story that I have to tell you now, I don't have to text you, is that we were writing letters to the soldiers, and a student in the class wrote to a soldier, "If no one told you today that they love you, know that I do." And I went, oh my God, how wonderful is that? That is how Joanne would end her messages every day on the loudspeaker. And this child in 4th grade wrote it to this soldier to thank them on Veterans Day. It just was so terrific. And I hope that you think about that and know the impact that you had, not only on all the students, but absolutely every adult in that school, from the paras to the teachers, and I'm sure all the custodians, everybody that worked there. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We love you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Sandra Mordecai. If you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Hi, it's Sandra Mordecai, 516 Pleasant Valley Way. Hello, Dr. Joe. Wow, 37 years. Thank you for your service and dedication. I first met you when you were a supervisor at West Orange High School on the child study team when my sons were there. You're definitely missed already. You have laid such a strong foundation for special education throughout this district in many, many roles, and of course, most recently at Kelly School. It has been a pleasure working with you in my role as a board member for several years. Now Kelly School has a special character. I know they always say Redwood is a school with heart. Now we say Kelly School is a school with kindness and patience, because you have the patience of Job. I will definitely miss you at all the school and town events, the Badlani events, and of course the St. Patrick's Day Parade, and so many others. You've been a strong supporter of our district and town, and you're definitely going to be missed. Thank you for the Irish blessing. You always come through with a lovely blessing. Thank you, thank you, thank you on behalf of my family. Enjoy your retirement, and God bless you.
Thank you. Next, we have Joyce Melvin. If you can please follow the prompt on your screen.
Hi, Dr. Joe. I just want to say thank you for everything, for being an extraordinary role model, for perseverance, and a wonderful educator, and an even better friend. You have touched all of our lives, and we are better off having known you. I wish you many blessings, and I will miss you. Thank you for everything.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Melinda Huerta. If you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Melinda Huerta, 17 Park Drive South. I just wanted to say I'm sorry that I didn't have the privilege of knowing and working with you, Dr. Pallara, because obviously by all of the calls and all of the demonstrations of affection that you were a wonderful human being. And I wish you all the best in your retirement. Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have anyone else? Last call for Dr. Joe using the raise your hand button, or if you are one of our call-ins, it's *9. Oh, okay. Last minute people. Nancy Feldman. If you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Hi, Dr. Joe. I speak for all the staff. You have been an incredible inspiration for all of us. You are a warrior, a fierce warrior. And I ditto everybody else's statements about you and your love, your unwavering humor and creative words, and always having the cup half full. And we are never going to be the same because you have blessed us and enlightened us, and we value every way you've touched us on our hearts and our minds and our souls. You are missed. You are deeply missed, and we all love you. And thank you for everything you've done.
Okay, thank you. And Mrs. Swan, if you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Dr. Pallara, I'll never know how you juggled all the complexities of being a principal. You are a true superhero in my eyes. I'm in absolute awe of you. It's so rare to have a leader who leads with such compassion. You made everyone feel as though they were your #1 priority, students and teachers alike. You are an incredible human, and I feel so fortunate to have worked under your wing. You deserve this retirement more than anyone I know, and I wish you all the love, health, and happiness in the world. I love you so much.
Thank you. And all right, and that seems that that is about it.
All right, thank you all very much for that. Dr. Cascone.
Just that concludes our celebration and recognition of Dr. Pallara. Dr. Pallara, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's
Thank you.
schedule a time for you to come by the board office so we can present you with this plaque in person
and cake.
And cake, yeah, and
Oh,
whatever you want. To be honest with you, your what is that? That your request is what's that? Does that go? How does it work? Yeah, your
wish is my command.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm on hour 13 here. Okay.
You're unmuted, but that's what counts.
Well, that's a good start, isn't it, Ms.
Yeah.
Graftisa? Dr. Pallara, thank you so much.
Thank you. Everyone.
And we look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great night. Stay safe.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. I love you all, and I'm going to miss you, but I'll be back.
Okay, so just continuing with the second part of the superintendent's report. When we made the decision to postpone the commencement of our hybrid model, a sentiment which was pretty prevalent was shared amongst the district leadership, as well as from board members in their representation of the parent and family constituencies, was that if we were going to remain in virtual for additional time, that we needed to really evaluate our virtual school day, the fall virtual, which admittedly was structured in a kind of logistic marriage, if you will, with the on-site hybrid model. And as such, Friday was an asynchronous day. There was minimal, kind of scheduled instruction in the afternoon, although that's a little bit different on the elementary level. And so as a result of that, I spoke with Mrs. Mendez and charged her, along with the curriculum team and the principal teams, to evaluate the current virtual schedules and to come up with ways in which we could augment the offerings on those levels. And so initially administratively, and then Mrs. Mendez will speak to you a little bit about the process in terms of feedback loops with teachers as well. Those modifications were made. Now, the modifications to the secondary schedules will go into effect the Monday after Thanksgiving, and the elementary changes, which are still being finalized, will go into effect at the beginning of the second trimester in mid-December. Now, I should say, from a communication standpoint, that this information was meant to be the point in time at which this information was shared with the public, and then subsequent to tonight, it was going to be shared by the principals in the schools. It was shared internally by principals with staff, and as I understand, just by virtue of some emails and feedback I received today, that information had been released, inadvertently, I suppose, or just in passing conversation with students, and then kind of got out. So certainly that was not the manner in which I or the administrative team would have wanted that information to flow out, was kind of haphazardly. This was supposed to be the time tonight where we presented. And so Mrs. Mendez is going to, I apologize, it's the Monday before Thanksgiving, the 23rd, that this will go into effect. And Mrs. Mendez is going to screen share with you some of the details regarding the proposed revised schedule at Edison School, the middle schools, and the high school. She also is going to speak a little bit to some of the data which came out of the recent K-5 parent survey, which we administered. We had just about 700 respondents to that, and speak to some of what's come back from that as well. So at this time, I would turn it over to Mrs. Mendez to just provide some high-level views of the modifications to the virtual schedules for Edison School, the middle schools, and the high school. Mrs. Mendez?
Sure. Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Cascone. When we're thinking about our fall virtual schedule, I think it is worth repeating that it was married to a hybrid. Our hope was that we were going to enter into an in-person model of instruction on November 9th. And as we're now looking at a reset, we have taken a look back to assess our fall virtual. We have circled through all of our staff last Monday during faculty meetings to ask questions like what's working, what's not working. If you had to alter the schedule in any way, what would you do? How is it working with small group instruction, with intervention? How are students faring with keeping up with work and or not enough work? Is it just amount of right time for the instruction, or are there considerations for expanding instruction? What would be the priorities? And so then that happened pre-K through 12 at last Monday's faculty meetings. All of the feedback from staff was reviewed, and also the schedules that we currently have. I think overarching, what are the priorities we're looking for, beginning with high school, is to be able to, number one, offer extended time for content. Number two, consider the use of the Fridays for synchronous instruction. Number three, consider a rotation of the content so that students who are accustomed to the rotating block as is would be able to enter into classrooms of content at different times of the day. Not every morning at 7:30 would be the ELA or that first period, right? That they have an opportunity, because there are differences in the home and there are differences in the students' study patterns. So I think when we consider the high school schedule, we will see that. I will show it to you in a minute, right? But we will see 1 hour blocks for the content area. We will see it remain basically the same Monday through Thursday as is. There are no great changes, with the exception that we've embedded a 30-minute break in between the first 2 periods and the second 2. So it's periods 1 and 2 for 1 hour. And then there's a 30-minute break embedded, and then periods 3, 4, and that's to give everybody a break, teachers and students alike. You will see the inclusion of the Fridays. The Fridays will rotate so that students can have synchronous instruction. The purpose of that, again, is to give more time to the content so that we really optimize our opportunity to continue with our curriculum, knowing that we're already in some type of compacted curriculum, right? By extending it to the Fridays, we're able to do that. All right, so I'm going to briefly show you the high school schedule, but the principals have shared this with their staff. They will be communicating these with parents and with students. They'll be sending all of these home. This is just to give you a quick visual, right? But principals will be communicating that out. They've already done so to staff, and they will be communicating out with the families. So here is the high school schedule. Can you see the high school schedule? Yeah. All right, so then these are the periods. Here are periods 1 and 2. Again, it remains at the same time, the 7:30. You will see that it is an hour block. We do have that break embedded. This was a staff recommendation at the faculty meeting. They asked for a break to be embedded to split up the time. Some were going back to back straight, and then you will see the next 2 periods. We will continue with day 1 is periods 1 through 4. Day 2 is periods 5 through 8. And there still remains a lab schedule. It will be in the afternoons because this will accommodate the Fridays. For the high school, there is the calendar that will be available to the parents, which will show them how the periods rotate and on which days they will be held. Okay, and the schedule will begin Monday, November 23rd. There is a 10-minute break between each of the blocks, so the students do have a 10-minute break between their classes. Friday is a synchronous learning day, so that means that the teacher will log on to the Zoom call, will provide the instruction on Fridays, and they will rotate. So that is the high school schedule. All right. When we think about the middle school schedule, the middle school schedule will now shift to having all periods offered every day. All right. But they've removed the advisory. They've removed the homerooms so that it's not the day is not, from, to the end of the actual day, right? So that it's still truncated, but it's periods now. 1 through 7 with the lunch embedded and with the SEL being interwoven through all of the content. The classes will be 10 minutes in between each of the classes. They will have Fridays. The AB's days now will be able to flow better through it. That was a part of the feedback from the staff, right? That the AB days for those electives or those related arts classes were really only seen maybe once a month or twice a month, if at best. So now with the full schedule, we'll be able to push in all of those classes, and they've added the financial literacy onto a Wednesday schedule, and they've increased it to a concrete 4 hours of instruction. Again, no asynchronous on Fridays. It will be synchronous. So I'm going to push it onto the screen. Just give me a second. And so then this is the middle school.
Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
Do you have Were you just talking about Edison schedule?
Middle school.
Oh, this is middle school. Okay. All right. Yep.
Work my way backwards.
Gotcha.
All right, so then this is the middle school schedule. They do have 40-minute periods, but now it's all periods every day. So you'll see that now there again is the consistency with the content working through all of the days. There are 10 periods in between. They still have the lunch embedded. And again, on Wednesdays, they're going to push in the financial literacy for our 8th graders. Okay. When we think about Edison, we have our younger learners there. We certainly listened to our staff and content area and parent feedback just around being mindful of the screen time and how many periods are in a day and how much time the students are being required to do the work. And so then you will see a differentiation happening between high school, middle school, right, Edison, and the elementary. And so then Edison is going to remain with their schedule, the one that they have. They're not going to do all of the periods every day. They will have day 1, periods 1 through 4, day 2, periods 5 through 8, and I'll share that here. Okay, so they're going to remain, but their periods increase to 1 hour. So before they were a little over 50 minutes, but now each of their periods will be 1 hour. So we're increasing time with content. We're also including the Fridays. Fridays will be every period, but it will only be 30 minutes, right? And the point of the Fridays is so that the teacher could meet with the students, review what has happened during Monday through Thursday, maybe look on to what the assignments are for the upcoming week, really walk students through any discussions, questions and answers, offer some support. And that's what the Fridays are really designed to do. All right, so there is a 10-minute break in between the classes. Again, there's an increase of the content time to 1 hour. And then the afternoon will be used for office hours, for student tutorials, for PLC meetings, for student support. So here is a look at the Edison schedule. Again, all of these schedules will be shared in depth and more with all of the nuances to the parents based on the student schedules, the interventions, the academic supports that pertain to each student, special services, related services, all of those things are embedded to include ESL where it pertains, to include speech and OT and PT where it pertains, right, and academic support for our students who require it. And so then that's an overview of our schedules. They are all set to start on Monday, November 23rd, which is the upcoming Monday. Monday and Tuesday will be full day synchronous schedules. Wednesday, because it is a half day before the Thanksgiving break, will be a half day asynchronous schedule across the district. All right. So we can prepare for Wednesday to be asynchronous for all students pre-K through 12. And the same will happen for the Wednesday before the December break, right? When we break for the holidays. So then that's how we're applying that. And then just lastly, some feedback regarding the survey that was sent out. We sent out another survey for elementary. And we are now working on building the elementary schedule. We're not there yet. It's going to take us a little time. We're really unpacking that. The elementary principals did meet with all of their staff again the last Monday to get feedback. And that implementation will be at the beginning of the new trimester, which is just after December 14th. So we have another week where we're going to be building out the elementary schedule. From the staff feedback, the priorities are giving more time to the core content, specifically literacy and math. They would like more time with that content. Currently, we offer it every other day. So we're going to move to offer ELA and math every day. So that's going to be the increase in content. We are exploring the Fridays and what that would look like. We are wondering if we do include the Fridays for content. How do we continue to provide our OT, our PT, our intervention, basic skills, G&T, right? All of those things are on Fridays. So that's some of the planning that we're working through now. the priority for teachers was also that they want to spend more time with the students in small group instruction, in intervention, and when we reset our schedule to consider how we're going to do that, right? So we need to, those are going to be our top two priorities: content every day, right? And how do we really make more efficient the integration of intervention and support for the students in small group. And specifically now to the data that we have, because when we first planned the schedule, we didn't have reading levels, we didn't have scores, right? Students weren't in, we were planning over the summer. So now we do have data. So we're going to start to reassess our cohorts. Those may be redefined. We may see some shuffling of students, and that would be based on data, right? Based on how they're performing, based on what their reading levels are, based on what their needs are academically, right? And so then that would be a consideration. One of the biggest concerns that was expressed over the schedule is related to arts in the afternoon. Both teachers and parents alike on both surveys, right, expressed that it was very complicated. It was very difficult to follow, that maybe students had related arts on one day of the week and the afternoon is perceived as optional, although it's required, right? And so then we're going to rework that related arts schedule. That's a priority for us to rework that. So that is something else that you will see in this elementary schedule once it is reset. With regard to the survey, we did have 660 responses. We have to say that overwhelmingly in the 80th percentile, almost in the 90th, the responses to the attitude about remote learning still continues to be motivated and ready to learn well and in good spirit. There is 13% of our parent body that has responded that the students are really, really struggling and they need to be able to return to school. And absolutely, we understand that. So again, when we build this schedule out, we're going to really focus on what strategies can we really lean into to make sure that we're addressing the needs of those specific, of all of our students, and additionally for that 13% that feels that they're really struggling with the online learning, and understanding that 13% is only representative of those who've completed the survey, right? The 660 that have completed the survey. The experience with Zoom, again, positive. There are still some issues with students getting booted out, or right, and that's 144 parents of the 660, it's 20%, have expressed that intermittently they have difficulties with the getting booted out or a black screen. And then we know that our technology department continues to work on that, but the data has improved. It was higher when we first started. When we think about the experience with the virtual school schedule, we have 67% of our parents say that it's just right. Don't touch it, leave it alone, right? So that's 67%. There are 23% that say it's a light day and 11% that say that it's too much. All right, so again, we're going to differentiate our schedule. It will not be one size fits all. We have the parameters that we're setting with increasing content by frequency, but doesn't mean increasing the length of the day or the screen time, right? So we're looking to meet both needs and really address the students by pushing in the interventions. How much adult supervision is required during the instructional delivery? We had 57% of our parents that say that our students are able to engage independently without any support, and another 32% with occasional support. So that's 57 plus the 32, right? So it's either independent or occasional. We do have 11% that says it requires a lot of support. We do have a spreadsheet of who those parents are and the names, and we are able to work with our students. Again, priority, embedding that intervention, not in the afternoon, but embedding it onto the ELA block or the math block, so that the students never have to kind of leave the class to get the intervention and be expected to come back, right? We have ELA and we have intervention, and they're linked. And I think those are the feedback that we've received from our parents. We understand that this is extremely difficult. We're on month 9 of being out of school. And so then we know that it is extremely difficult. We are making modifications to the schedules to again, prepare for the fact that we are in a prolonged period of time now in this virtual setting. So we're going to implement as much of the feedback as we can. As soon as the elementary schedule is finished, which I expect us to have a draft completed by the end of the week, then we'll come back and be able to communicate out what those changes or modifications would be.
Thank you, Mr. Mendez. I have just two really quick clarifying questions. I think I know the answer, but so as far as the changes to the high school schedule, the amount of instructional screen time, if you will, Monday through Thursday has not changed.
With the 30-minute break in between, it gives the appearance that it has changed, but it is not. It's basically the same amount of time.
But it's just spaced out. And previously, were there breaks between classes of 10 minutes?
There were previously breaks of 15 minutes, but now they're 10.
Okay, so there's 10 minutes and then the additional 30-minute break that's bisecting the two classes. So
Right.
in essence, what we've done is we've added an additional synchronous learning day on Friday.
And we're rotating we're
rotating the blocks.
Mhm.
Okay. And of course, the labs being moved from Friday into the afternoon.
To the afternoons, correct. And that is so we can accommodate the synchronous instruction for the Fridays. Now, I do have to say here, and we'll keep repeating just so that we all remember, these schedules will not be able to be implemented in person for hybrid. We will have another shift. Here, we're optimizing our time because we're virtual and we want to make sure that we build in some more time for core content, but we would not be able to sustain this type of schedule on a hybrid. We would have to make another shift for hybrid and for the Fridays and for transportation. So that would look differently, right? I.e. that 30-minute break that we've built in, we wouldn't be able to do that in person because the students would have nowhere to go, right? So this is 30 minutes so that teachers are not teaching back to back, students are not going back to back, they have some time. But if we were in person, we couldn't do a 30-minute break in the middle of the day. So that's a good example.
Thank you, Mrs. Mendez. Appreciate that. Mr. Alper?
Let's start off with Mr. Rothstein. I'm sure we'll have lots of questions for you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is actually the second time today that I'm hearing about this because earlier during the day I was working and my daughter came into my office and she just gave me a dirty look and said, "What did you do to me?" So I would imagine there may be many students throughout the district feeling that way today. I have a different take on it. I think this is a good move. I'm very happy about the way that you've described this. So just a couple of questions and they're disjointed. So if it's okay, I'll do them one at a time. First off, with regards to the middle schools, you mentioned, Mr. Mendez, you mentioned SEL being woven throughout the content instead of just isolated in one content block. Can you give a little bit of a description of what that might look like?
Sure. So when we're thinking about social emotional learning, we're thinking about building rapport, relationships with students, checking in on them, really considering reflection and how the impact of everything that's happening on the student is bearing fruit in their life, is impacting their ability to study, what isolation feels like, giving them voice to, again, the impact of either the pandemic or being at home or not being with friends or studying independently. Currently at the middle school, we had that during an advisory period, right? And so then that was a separate period where we would discuss those things. We saw an uneven attendance to the advisory period as is, right? So we didn't feel that we were as much losing something as much as we were really applying it directly to content. And so then what we're doing is all of the lessons or the strategies or the different SEL approaches. We'd like the teachers in all of their content really to build the rapport, to build the relationship, to give the students voice, to take those opportunities. I know at the last board meeting, we talked about a mental health day, right? Mental health breaks or just a step away from the content for a day or a period to discuss, to talk, to hear, to give voice. And we're going to do that through content and work with our teachers to build that through versus separating it out. And if I would echo Ms. Butler, our director of school counselors, she always says SEL is something that we do every day in everything. It cannot be something that we separate out as if it is, you know, this little box that we're containing, right? It's something that we have to really bring through everything. So I think that's going to be a shift. I think you're going to see that in all of our grade levels. We're going to bring SEL through content and work with our students and listen to our students and give them opportunity to really share what's happening inside, right? And talk about it as educators and as students, as a school family.
I think that sounds like a good approach. And staying with that topic, can you tell me whether currently teachers do they have the opportunity or the ability through the Zoom classes or to recognize students who they think may need referral for a little bit more guidance and assistance? And are we tracking numbers of those referrals and following up to make sure students are getting support that they may need?
Yes, so absolutely. Teachers are observing students. Teacher communicate to principals, to school counselors when conversations are had or any anomalies or students who may not be as participatory or what we would say themselves, right? Where we see differences, and they'll communicate that. The high school and the middle school, all of the schools, right? But their high school in particularly has a very strong system for tracking the students. It could be that they have an X number of consecutive absences from a class, and then there's a whole team with the deans who reach out to the students and the school counselors to make sure that we're not losing anyone, right? That nobody's, you know, invisible, right? We want everybody to be visible. And so then those things do take place in terms of referrals for a child study team or INRS. We also have processes in place for each of those, and the teachers are instrumental in helping us identify the students, and they take place in, they participate in the INRS and or child study team meetings when a referral is made. With regard to data and numbers, I could get those for you from the administration or from Dr. Ms. Gogarty Fitzgerald's office. She is the holder of the data for referrals, and then Ms. Butler has the INRS. So we could get that data for you in those different areas.
That would be interesting. Yeah, I think my main concern is just making sure that that there is follow through. And that the students are getting contacted. And then again, one more sort of on the same topic. You had mentioned of those who had responded to the survey with regards to whether students were working independently or needed parental support. 11%, I think you said that they needed to provide a lot of support to the students. And I believe that you said, if I heard you correctly, that you're able to reach out to those parents. Is there a plan in place yet, or is that something in development about how to reach out to those parents and try to get them some more support?
Yes, we can. All of these surveys populate spreadsheets that principals have, right? So we share with our principals all of the data that comes in, whether it be people who've opted out or people who have, are in survey results, or people who have feedback, right? And so then we all have access to those. And so then, yes, principals and or their, supervisors, whatever the teams are throughout our administration, we are looking at data, and we are looking at parents who communicate to us via surveys just as much as they do via email or phone calls, right? And so we can reach out to the parents and the students alike.
That's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then one last question. Personally, as a parent, I'm happy to see some extended hours and the approach to topics, subject matter every day, the same classes every day. There was some discussion last week about the word rigor, and I know some debate in the community about getting too heavy-handed with the academics in this, difficult learning environment. I shouldn't say difficult learning environment, but different learning environment where we're all sort of learning together as a community how to make this work optimally. And so can you just share any information about what that looks like from the faculty perspective and from the curriculum perspective, and how faculty may be advised on addressing the issue of rigor versus, extending the hours and the topics that are being covered without necessarily going too overboard and making things too difficult on students?
Yeah, so I think I'd have to start by saying that in all of our content, rigor, we're defining it as really addressing our curriculum, addressing our standards, addressing it in the right grade level, right? And with the attention that the standards deserve for the students to be able to move successfully from one grade to the next, right? For them to be able to successfully demonstrate proficiency. To some of the wonderings around, do we have the absence of rigor and are our classes fluffy or anything like that? Absolutely not. We have very much rigor is present. We are addressing our standards. We are addressing our curriculum. While we have compacted it, we've compacted it to prioritize which standards we're addressing, not as in selecting this one and not that one, but to say, if we're addressing these standards, we will remove the fluff, right? So we will remove any, projects or long activities or the games and all of the things that we might have been able to do in a classroom, right? To really just focus on content. With that said, I think we were very measured in our increase of content area time. So for example, simply offering the content every day instead of every other day is enough to hold rigor and meet the curriculum and the content without extending the day, right? Without making it more time for the students to be in front of their computer screen, longer hours. And it allows the student then to kind of chunk their assignments and work through it horizontally versus having longer nights, right? So I think we were strategic in that. Our administrative team, our school leaders, our district leaders really thought about how do we focus on the content area, the core content. How do we really address the rigor, the content and the curriculum that needs to be addressed in a year, knowing that there's an inability to cover everything we've covered in a regular school year, right? We know this, we have to accept that part of it, but when we do that, we want to make sure that we're not thinking that that means we're not teaching our curriculum in a meaningful way, that we're not thinking that that means that we've lost, right, the priority areas of the standards, because we are addressing them. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it actually does. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And that was it. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Hi, Mr. Mendez. Good
Hi.
evening. Mr. Rothstein took several of my questions. I thank you, Mr. Rothstein.
If you send me your questions in advance, I'll avoid them.
I have a couple. Looking at the high school schedule, where we are finishing at 12:20 and then we have labs. What does that look like for the majority of the high school students, the labs? How many days a week? What are we talking in the afternoons?
I believe it's 1 day per week. I would have to figure it out. I can come back to you with that specifically. It depends on the student. So the labs would be in a science class. It would be in some of the math classes. It may be in some of the consumer science classes, right? When we're thinking about career education, that's where the labs exist. If the students have those classes,
right,
in the way the lab is set up is that during the day they would have the content in their class, and then they're aligning the lab for the afternoon to support the content. So if I have, biology class in my AM and I'm learning the content for that biology, then they will align the lab to be that same day in the PM so that I can execute the lab work for that class. The labs run 30 minutes each from 1 to 2:15. There's a rotation, right? So it's that same rotation, periods 1 through 4 on day 1, periods 5 through 8 on day 2, and then wherever the students have a lab, they would take it. What number of students in the high school have labs? I can find that number out. I don't know the number of students that take labs.
Yeah, I would wonder how many students are affected. And then with the AP Sciences, are they getting the number of periods that they need to cover the compacted
Yes.
curriculum?
And that was important because some of these classes are not just 4-credit classes, right? Some of them are have many more credits. And so then that's why we're building in the labs, we're building in the time, and the students are attending and the students are working through their labs, right? So it was offered in the fall virtual schedule on Fridays in the AM. It's going to be the same thing. We're just moving it to the PM. So that way we can integrate the synchronous instruction on Fridays.
So essentially the day is over at 12:20 unless you have a lab.
Unless you have a lab.
And are there office hours or
There
what else is happening?
Absolutely. So there's office hours during those times. So staff can meet with the students. They can call whether it's a Zoom call, right? Or work with them in small groups. They can do that with the students, and they are.
Great. Okay, so this is a big question. We talked about being ready to pivot to hybrid, and so we had a remote schedule, a virtual schedule that allowed us to slide right into hybrid. That's not happening right now, so we've had to step back and revise, as you said, and so now we're looking at November and December for elementary. What will it take to be ready to pivot to hybrid from where we will be shortly?
I think one, the parameters that need to be adhered to would be transportation, number one, right? So thinking about how we stagger for elementary, middle, and high school to be transported. Two, that the schedule as we implement it will allow for the students to have their classes with minimal movement, right? We don't want them to move or change classes as many times as they would normally, right? So if we could avoid that, we would want to avoid that. What would it take? I think it would just take removing that 30-minute break for the high school specifically, and we would need to move the schedule from the 7:30 to the 9:30 to the 9:45 start for the high school. So I think we already have something in play. We had the schedule that we wanted in play. I think we might find ourselves just going back to our full virtual and bringing it into the hybrid. I don't think it would take us a long time to pivot. Our plan is as soon as we're finished this schedule and we have it implemented Monday the 23rd, Tuesday the 24th, we're going to start planning for the literally planning for what the in-person shift would be. So that way, when we're ready to open our schools, we can do that from one day to the next.
Okay, I think that's really important. And just to follow up a little bit on that 11% again at the elementary level. So you've got things in play there. And you talked about how with wellness checks or whatever we're doing at the middle and high, we're picking up students. So did we look at grades, or are we looking at marking period grades at the high school and middle school?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're looking at marking period grades. They're looking at attendance. They're looking at students who begin in the day and then drop off on the day, right? So they'll start their day off with their classes and then maybe they don't come back to their classes.
Right.
At the middle and high school, we do take period by period attendance. That will also be a shift at the elementary for grades 4-5. At the elementary, we're accustomed to taking attendance in the morning for the day. But for grades 4-5, we are also shifting to taking attendance every period because 4-5 is departmentalized. So that way we can begin to just make sure, again, we're not losing any of our students, that we're monitoring them period by period. We're communicating with our parents period by period. Yes, they showed up to their periods 1 and 2, but then they didn't come to their periods 3 and 4. That's something we need to be able to know and communicate. And we do know it, and we do follow up, but we're going to follow up also by having period by period attendance.
Great. I'd just be interested, and I guess this is for Dr. Cascone as much as it is for you, just to get a profile of how our kids are doing academically and as far as attendance, especially high school, and then middle school and then elementary. But I'd really like to know how they're faring as far as academics are and attendance.
So the middle school marking period ends, I think it's this week, the Thursday, right? So we'll know as far as grades are concerned and attendance there. And then the trimester for elementary ends December 14th. So I'll start pulling all of these data because we do know who's coming and who's not now, right? And then we'll add to that the grades so that we can see, again, that profile that you're looking for, that whole picture.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you. So, I mean, if you don't mind, just for our folks that are tuning in, could you just go over the difference between asynchronous and synchronous learning now that we're changing the model up on Fridays? I know there's been some confusion with some of our parents in the community about what asynchronous is versus the synchronous.
Sure. So the asynchronous is where the students are accessing their instruction in Google Classroom. The teacher is not physically or visibly present, right? They are posting assignments in the Google Classroom. The student would go to the Google Classroom, they would get their assignments, they would complete it. They could participate in discussion boards with other students, but it would be via discussion board or, you know, those preset programs. It would not be where synchronous, a teacher logs into the Zoom call, we're all in the same space at the same time. So what we're doing now is a board meeting. This is synchronous. We're all in the same space at the same time. All right. So right now what we have is Fridays asynchronous. Students on their own schedule at their own time go into their Google Classroom, get their assignments, complete them independently, right? All at different times and without direct support from the teacher. We are shifting to now students being in the same space at the same time and following their schedule. They will log in, the teacher will be present, they will provide the content area instruction and or support, and students will be with other students in that same space to discuss what the content is.
Great, thank you. Just from my own knowledge and for some of the folks in the community as well, you know, we talked a lot about this maybe last year, the year before, we were talking about the number of hours, right, for different content. So it was health and PE versus music and the amount of time that was, you know, spent for each course and the state guidelines. How are we doing in terms of I haven't heard a lot about the number of hours we're spending on content and if we're meeting the state requirements. So could you speak a little bit to that?
Sure. So when we moved into virtual, the state said in the road back that we had to follow the home instruction criteria, right? So the home instruction criteria was I believe it's 2 to 3 hours a day, depending. And so we're exceeding that. We're exceeding what the state is requiring us to do in terms of the hours of a day, for, if you will, if we want to say it that way. What we may not have is PE, right? Twice a week in a gym, right? We might not have that. We certainly do, however, have PE asynchronously or synchronously, and the lessons are there. So we're meeting the requirements that way, but it's certainly not traditional, right? It's not a structured way for the students to come together and enter into the activities. They're doing them at home independently on their own.
So to the parents that have the concerns that our students are backsliding or are not, meeting the needs or that you get in traditional brick and mortar, right? So I think there's some concern that because they're virtual, it's not, and I'm not saying it's not intentional that teachers aren't putting in the work and effort. I absolutely believe they are. But there are some concerns with, my child starts the school day at 8 o'clock and they're finished with their work by 10. So that they're, the rest of the day, they're goofing off, they're playing video games, they're not really engaged with schoolwork. So there's this concern that our students aren't getting the education that they're expecting, I guess, as parents of our school district. So is there anything that we can do to help kind of maybe make parents feel comfortable that the students are getting the, their education that we would expect in
Sure.
West Orange?
So if we think about the high school was always on a rotating drop. So the idea that if they don't have their class 5 days a week, then they have less. They never had their classes 5 days a week. They always had them 3 to 4 times a week. So we are actually meeting that, right? Whether we're thinking about the elementary schools and we're in a half day, students aren't getting the amount of time. There is a reduction in some of the time. However, when a student is in school for the entire day, there is a lunch embedded, there are the electives embedded, right? There's the related arts. So even though they're there for the hours, there are other things happening in that day that is not just the students sitting straight through content the whole time. So is there a reduction? Absolutely. There's no way, right? We're going to be able to say that there's no reduction in time. Is there a more focused engagement with the content because we're in virtual? Absolutely, right? Is the rigor and the curriculum present? Absolutely. Are students learning differently, and is this impacting the way that they're learning, and are they getting the exact same amount of supports as they would in a classroom? Absolutely not, right? There's just no way. There's nothing we can say to replace brick and mortar and a teacher in front of you and your peers in front of you for learning. But I do also, while I acknowledge that, want to say that our teachers are absolutely designing lessons and engaging opportunities with content, and they're tending to the students to make sure that they are moving along with the content. And by making sure that we provide that daily instead of intermittently, right, every other day, I think we addressed some of those concerns we're seeing from our fall virtual schedule. I think here, by resetting, we're going to address the concerns that I think I hear lead to some of the concerns that you're expressing.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. I'm happy to hear about the ESL or SEL being incorporated into the school day. But more so than I think just the discussion of feelings and how they're being impacted by the pandemic and whatnot, is I think that need for socialization, which I don't think you can really replicate virtually. Being on the playground with your friends, talking about whatever as kids, and I get to see it every day. So how are we incorporating just being a kid into the classroom in the virtual model?
Yeah. You're right. It's not going to replace the playground. It's not going to replace, being outside and or being in a classroom with your friends. But teachers in this reset, we're looking at different strategies to really just think about socialization, to think about how to allow the students to spend time with their peers, right? And just working or talking with their peers in a meaningful way, in a structured way, right? But to integrate that. So we're working on those strategies.
Mr. Mendez,
yeah.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons we we went with the Zoom platform was because of the functionality of that of being able to create small breakout rooms and things of that nature. Do you have your finger on the pulse of practice in that regard, in terms of how teachers are using those breakout rooms so that students have an opportunity to interact in smaller groups with one another?
Sure. So we have a general session like we have here, where we would be teaching our content. Teachers are working with the whole class. And then they can break the class out into small groups. Zoom facilitates that. What we have been doing is employing different strategies for that. So a breakout room may be that you have different groups working on different tasks. You may have the breakout room being used so that teachers can push into a room to provide support to students who need support with like areas. We are using the breakout rooms where students have choice. These are the different breakout rooms that exist. Here are the different things that you can task, and where would you like to go? And so then the students can choose. We use the breakout rooms for students to work on small projects with their peers, so they can choose, I want to go into this room and work with, you know, these two students on our project. We're going to work as a team, and they can go in there and they work on their own, and then the teacher visits the breakout rooms. And then for things like instrumental, where we can't have students, let's say, practicing an instrument all at the same time on the Zoom call, it just doesn't work. We've tried it, right? And so then they might break out into those rooms, which we have up to 50 rooms available for any one call. And then you might have all of the students in an individual room, like a studio, right? And they're playing their instrument, and then the teacher can pop in to listen to how the instrument is being played and to offer the student feedback. So there are very different ways in which the breakout rooms are being used. And again, they do provide us with an opportunity for the socialization to be embedded into the breakout rooms.
That's great. And so I don't know if maybe this is for Scott, but would it be possible maybe to get to see some of these projects or breakout rooms and items, some of the musical things that are being done at one of our board meetings, to see what the students are doing and, you know, kind of reward, you know, and acknowledge all the work that they're doing, and along with the faculty and staff that are putting these breakout rooms together and these projects together, and maybe see some of the results of what that looks like for us. I think that'd be great to be able to recognize our students and their achievements for that.
Sure.
In terms of our spec ed students, how is this new schedule going to affect what we currently have in place?
Yeah, so, you know, we're working closely with Ms. Gogarty Fitzgerald and Ms. Ribeiro. Those are the director and supervisor of special education, to really think about specifically resource room and how we're supporting our special education students who have self-contained classes and or who we're trying to make sure that we continue to provide opportunities for inclusion in least restrictive environment, although virtual, right? So we work hand in hand with that department, and they are in the meetings when we're creating the schedule and giving feedback. So perhaps Ms. Gogarty Fitzgerald could attend a future board meeting to just give more detail and specificity to how we're making sure that our students are being, their schedules and their needs are being met via the schedule. Also, with regard to related services, right now, the students, we generally use that Friday in the afternoons to pull out students to try to protect them not being pulled out during the day, which, believe it or not, is a little easier in virtual, right? Because during the day, when we're in school, we have to pull them out of their classes, and here we have different opportunities. So again, we work together to do the same. So maybe if Dr. Cascone, you know, perhaps we can invite Ms. Gogarty Fitzgerald to the conversation and have her give us some details.
That'd be great. Thank you. And then just kind of going back to the hybrid model, I know most folks know I was disappointed that we weren't able to resume or offer the hybrid model. And more of so, I think, just for clarification, it was that we took the option off the table for parents, right? So parents always had the option to stay virtual, but the option to be hybrid was basically taken off the table. And I understand, you know, obviously numbers now are rising, and from what I understand, our thought is that should we get down to under 10%, I think that was the number, somewhere around that, we would then offer the hybrid. And kind of just to build off what Terry had asked, are we ready to do that? I mean, or I shouldn't say are we ready. How quickly would we envision being able to pivot going back to that hybrid offering?
I think instantly. I don't think it would take us long. We were prepared to open November 9th. We're all disappointed. We were all, right? We prepared right up until the last minute. We were ready to bring our students in. We have our schedules done. All of hybrid is ready and good to go. What we're seeing here is a reset of the fall schedule to a winter virtual because we're staying in virtual. So because we're staying in virtual, then we wanted to add more time for content, make sure we're meeting the needs of our students individually with intervention in small group, and that we're really just hearing some feedback about what was working and what wasn't working in the virtual setting. But we have a hybrid model. We were ready to go for November 9th. We're ready to go when we decide it's time. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Ms. Tunnicliffe.
You're unmuted. Oh, no, I cannot hear you though. Can you plug in and unplug your headphones? Sometimes a good old turn it on and off again works.
That better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Just a few questions. I think my colleagues have covered a lot of territory here. I know the 2:15 deadline on Fridays for labs was a concern. Now that we're having labs throughout the week to accommodate the students that'll match the class, which I think sounds great. Is there still going to be a deadline time for turning in work? Because I know that had been particularly problematic for some of our families who had students with multiple AP classes, that they just didn't have the time to get all that done.
So that's something I can bring back to the high school team. We haven't discussed, or at least I haven't asked about the timelines. That's something that they do at the school level. However, we would potentially not be moving back to having it extended to 11:59 p.m., right? That was something we did when we closed, and we can't maintain that because teachers can't be expected to grade at those hours, right? And so then right now, if students are home and they're working through their schedule in the AM, they should be able to use the PM to complete the homework assignment. I will find out to what time the extension would be there for students to complete it. And if we're putting labs in the afternoons, what does that mean? I do agree that an adjustment would have to be made. So I'll bring that back to the high school team and see how they've thought that through.
Great, thank you so much. And you had talked about now, after the survey, you now have a spreadsheet with names of folks who are in that 11% that are, where they feel some of the work is too much and that there's, they need a lot more support. It was fairly small sample because we have 7 elementary schools, and that's basically a little more than one elementary school of folks. How are we reaching out, and how do we know or identify the other kids that are struggling and should be included in that pool of folks that we want to kind of give some extra support to?
Sure. I think first we'd want to know that the survey was really for our intents and purposes as a school community at this higher level, right? Mm-hmm. How is our community doing overall? The survey, however, is not our method for collecting data and finding out how our students are doing. It's more of a metric to get an idea of, representatively how are our parents feeling about the students' ability to work independently and or need the support. Each of the schools, the teachers, they have a constant pulse on the students, right? They reach out to their students regularly and to their parents regularly when they see that students aren't engaged or they're not present. So that's something that's ongoing and happens daily. In addition to the teachers reaching out to the parents themselves, when they see that there is a reoccurring concern, then they communicate that to the school counselors who reach out, and then to the building principal who reaches out. At the high school, it would be deans and assistant principals, etc. So we do have systems in place that are much more comprehensive than a survey. The survey is just our idea of, as a whole, how are we doing, just to kind of, have this reach out into our community.
Okay, great. Um, And then can you talk a little bit about your vision for this small group intervention at the elementary level that you're working on right now? Is this specifically for spec ed, or is this for kids that are struggling, a little of both? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Sure. So what we see is that traditionally we have what we call a BSI model, right? We have students who are identified that they may be not at grade level. We have different ways to assess those students. We've identified them and we provide services. And you know, in a conversation we had with our teams today, we talked about that generally these models are designed for smaller groups of students and targeted assist, right? So you have these small groups and then you assist the students by pulling them out to provide intervention or services. But when the number begins to exceed that small number, right? When they begin to become the majority, then you move away from what we would call that targeted assist into a school-wide model. I would submit that we need to be in a school-wide model because of virtual, right? Because we're in this setting where the students, all of them need support, whether it be the student who needs support because they're not reading at grade level, or whether it be that gifted student that needs more challenging and more extension in their work, right? So we're going to need to support all of our students, or our special education student who has very specific needs, right? We need to support all of them. Right now, what we have is the afternoons being used for intervention. What we're finding is that students come to the AM, and in some cases, I don't want to make this a bigger, you know, number than it is, it's not, but in some cases, we have students who may not come to the afternoon, right? Or because our related arts are in the afternoon, it's a competing priority, right? I don't want to pull them because then I pull them from art and they don't get the socialization, right? So what we want to remove is that competing priority. We want to say, for example, if ELA is in the AM and it is an hour block, maybe we add a 30 minutes to the ELA. Now it's an hour and a half. The students are already with us. They're in the ELA class with the teacher, and now we provide the intervention. We provide the intervention right after that block. And it could be the teacher that pulls small group. It could be the BSI teacher that pushes into that Zoom call, or that pulls students from different classes, same grade level, into a Zoom call during that time. But we have the captive audience. We have the students who are already in their ELA class. They're already working on that content. And then we can, during that intervention block, either the teacher provides support to the content, or the BSI teachers provides support for the skill strategy, or the gifted teacher provides strategies to extend the learning, or the reading specialist can use that to push in, or the OT or PT teacher can pull the student out to provide services. But now we back it up. We'd like to back it up to ELA and to math. So that's what we're exploring right now to see what that looks like in this elementary schedule.
And is that done through the breakout rooms, just as a logistic piece? So
could be.
Okay.
Could be done through breakout, or it could be that we, the students are pulled into a different call.
Oh, okay.
But then the teacher would facilitate that. The teacher would, give students the link. You're going to go here, and you're going to work with, Ms. Demendez or Ms. Tunnicliffe. She's going to work with you on these skills, right? And we can do that. But at least we have the student there. It's not an afternoon thought, right? It is an embedded thought.
Got it. Okay. And then in terms of, can you tell me how are the elementary schools really using the breakout rooms that we have for Zoom? And because I can envision that getting a little hairy and that's working out okay. I'm just trying to envision, younger kids being kind of left to their own devices in a breakout room, and how are our teachers handling that?
So one, you would be amazed at how apt our students are with technology. I mean, they're just incredible. Zoom does facilitate it easily. So what we could potentially do is, before a board meeting, I can break you all out so you can feel it and see how easy it is. Literally, it's a click of a button, and then Zoom automatically just brings you into a different space, and then it brings you back. In that separate setting, a student could call the teacher. There's a little feature that says call for help. and they can just click and call for help, and then the teacher can join that breakout room. And we're using roles in the breakout room. That was a big part of our PD. So if we have a breakout room with 4 students, then Jennifer is the one who is monitoring the class, making sure they're on task, and Ebony is making sure that we realize we only have 5 minutes left to do that, and we use the roles to help the students. Now we do use different approaches, let's say for our little ones in kindergarten, right? How do we use breakout rooms with them? That might not be something that we began with in the fall, but we're moving toward as we build in routines and responsibility and understanding. Again, it's differentiated.
So the students are assigned a role.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that sounds great.
And they're all recorded. So the breakout rooms are recorded as well. So we know what's going on.
So the teacher can go back and review and see what happened, and if there's any additional learning that she needs to kind of look at the next day or the next session, she can circle back to that. Or he.
Yeah, and our kids, things happen maybe, but our kids are good. They understand why they're in there, and they know what they need to do, and they miss school. They miss school, they miss being in their environment, and they're trying to do the best that they can. And I think our students are more resilient and more powerful than sometimes we think.
Yeah, well, that's great. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Ms. Celestin, you're up.
Hi. Okay, so Ms. Merklinger, I know you mentioned earlier that you wanted to see like what our students were doing for like the arts and stuff. And as a band student, we are like concocting a little concert. I hope this isn't a secret. Mr. Kelly, if you're here, don't mind me for spilling, but we're trying to do like a little Zoom recording so that we can present it, and then hopefully we can watch it our next board meeting, because it should be out by then. But on that note of the high school, so Olivia has been texting me some questions, and one of her questions was, so the science teachers, they may struggle with the office hours, especially with all the deadlines and things. Since I know you just said that you didn't want the 11:59 deadlines, but a lot of the science classes do have labs, and a lot of our students have multiple labs. Even some of the math classes have labs. So with these labs and these new times and not changing the deadline for the due work, how is that going to work? Because at that point, it's like it's a lot of work to do. It's a lot of lab to do. It's a lot of sitting at the screen and staring to do. And how is that going to work?
I think we're going to have to extend it. I just don't know to what time. Yeah, but I think we're going to have to extend it, because if the students are in classes all day long, then they can't be expected to have their homework done that day.
Okay. And another one of her questions, I'm just going to read it off okay. So she said, I know they mentioned that they're trying to monitor students' academic records and capabilities right now to gauge how the students are doing. But would you guys consider releasing surveys to students directly and asking for their input? That is something we could also oversee. They might appreciate that and think it would be a great way to introduce a more direct student perspective.
I do think it's a great thing that you and Olivia can oversee and work with Ms. Connors and the high school team to develop a survey for the students. That's something that's been done in the past, and I think we need to hear what the students are thinking and saying and hear your voice. So I would welcome an opportunity to just provide you any guidance that you need so that we can get those surveys completed and out to the students.
Alrighty, thank you. And I know earlier you guys had mentioned that there wasn't like a change in times for classes. There was a change in time. It's not a lie, it's 5 minutes, but 5 minutes will get you. So another question. So for the asynchronous, I know you guys just mentioned that we're going to get rid of the asynchronous, and Ms. Merklinger also mentioned that we have a lot of downtime. Personally and throughout all of my friends. So personally and throughout all of my friends, we feel as though the time that we have by ourselves and the time that we have for the asynchronous to get our work done on our own is very helpful. I know that I like being able to wake up on a Friday morning and say, okay, I know I need to get this done by 2:15, but there's no one pressuring me to do it. Like I don't have to get up at 7:30 and do it. I don't have to stay in class period and do it. I don't have to physically be there. I can just get it done, do it on my own time. And it's kind of like a mental health day. At least for me, it is. It definitely recharges my battery into the weekend, and it definitely does a lot for me. So would you guys like consider keeping that asynchronous day?
I think right now the high school has worked diligently to consider how we can increase the time for the content and offer it through the 5 days. You know, that's something that the students could certainly bring to the principal as a wondering, but I do think at this point that the schedule is where it is. And that the priority is to give opportunity for the constancy, right? To say we're going to have class every day for the students and really address the content because it is compacted. That may mean then extending the amount of time that students have to do homework or things like that. But I do believe that the Fridays right now is in the schedule.
Okay. So another thing, on that topic, personally, I feel like when I'm overworked, especially with that extra asynchronous day, that is definitely going to throw a lot of people off. A lot of people look forward to this asynchronous day, especially for the fact that they have jobs. You know, the pandemic was definitely a stress on a lot of people and a lot of their families. So they ended up picking up jobs and picking up the morning shift for Fridays. And I know that schools are our main priority, but some people really do need this right now and they do need to go to work. So how would you work around that, or try to work with it, not around it, but with it?
I don't know, Dr. Cascone, do you want to answer that? My first thing would be that we're in school during these times. These are our hours for school, Monday through Friday. These are the hours that we're in school. But you know, we can't be dogmatic. And so then I certainly don't want to not think about that as something that needs to be discussed on an individual, you know, case by case, but we're in school during these hours. Dr. Cascone, do you have a different perspective?
Well, you know, I think that, you know, one of the things I think we have to understand is that you have 2,000 students at the high school, right? And there's a diverse and um, broad continuum of students and needs, right? You know, I can speak from a little bit of personal experience because I happen to be the father of two high school students. My older daughter is a junior. She takes a pretty rigorous academic schedule, a couple AP courses, a couple honors courses. And while their school is presently, although they're shut down for 2 weeks, but you know, they were in 2.5 days. I mean, they are synchronous basically the entire week, including Friday. My daughter has a part-time job. She works 25 hours a week. She usually works between 1 and 9, or something of that, 1 and 8 or 2 and 8 or something of that nature. You know, and so listen, I don't mean to say that my daughter's experience is everyone's experience. I guess what I'm suggesting is that every student, we are here. We have to have systems level pieces in place, and those systems level pieces are not necessarily going to exactly meet the needs of every single student. That being said, we have a responsibility as an organization, as a school district, to meet students where they are and to try and be as flexible and as empathetic to the situations in which they find themselves. And I believe that, and I preach that from the top, right? So if you have a student, for example, who is experiencing some challenges relative to the increase in time or what have you, we're not going to leave you out to hang out to dry. We're going to understand why you're experiencing that challenge and provide what supports we can to enable you to get to that point, to get to a point where you feel more comfortable. As far as scheduling time on a Friday morning, I would hope that an employer would be understanding that, you know, now that for that particular student, that the Friday morning hours were no longer hours where they could necessarily work, and they'd be available to work any afternoon or weekends or what have you. but I think we're never going to meet the exact needs of every student through a particular approach, but we are absolutely committed to meeting every student where they are and enabling them and helping them make the adjustments to that system the best we can.
That means a lot. Fortunately, I'm not one of those students, but for the students who do need that definitely means a lot. Okay.
I can tell you, Andre, that it is that as a teacher, in my core, and as also as a leader, a person that wants to, be everything to everyone at all times. That's how I try and approach my work and the way I serve the community. I can tell you now more than ever, and through these times, it is particularly challenging and difficult as a service-oriented leader to not necessarily be able to offer every student everything they need at any given time. But that's not going to stop me or our team to aspire to that on a daily basis, and to put out that message to our students and our parents, whether it's about the degree to which you feel your child is falling behind, or as a student, if you're struggling in some way, we're here. We are here. And we want to meet you where you are and give you what you need, or perhaps just assuage or relieve your concerns. You might say, I think my child's falling behind. And you might find, after talking with the teacher and sharing assessment data with the parents, you might say, well, gee, actually, my kid's not behind at all, right? So sometimes we can imagine and create and conjure up the worst in our minds when in fact circumstances are actually better. But that being said, sometimes circumstances are not great, but understand that we're here to pick people up and support people where they are. And you absolutely need to take advantage of the resources that are there for you, whether it's the teacher, the guidance counselor, the principal. But it is not easy on a daily basis, not being able to be everything to everyone at all times, but we do try. It's our aspiration.
Yes, and that means way more than you guys know. It means a lot to us. And the Youth Caucus, we were talking about this, it means a lot to them too. Another thing, this is in regards of the Chromebooks. I know for me, I have Microsoft Office right now, so we have separate Chromebooks from everybody else. And these Chromebooks are giving us a lot of issues. I'm not sure if this is like a thing I should bring up with the tech. I ended up bringing it up with the tech people, but they couldn't really give me a direct answer. The Chromebooks seem to be not as updated as they should, because I need it for Microsoft Office, but the Microsoft Office program doesn't work, and that's the only reason I have it. So that was just like something I wanted to throw out there. I don't really need an answer on it or anything. And then another thing for Chromebooks, I noticed that I get a really bad headache and when I'm staring at the screen a lot, but the blue light feature is restricted. The blue light and the night light feature, they're restricted. So I'm unable to click that and then like spare my eyes. So yes, if we could unrestrict that, that would mean a lot to my eyes. Okay, so moving on to the middle school. Is Roosevelt a middle school? So sorry, I did not grow up here. Okay, so did Roosevelt have all meet days every day prior to this new schedule that you guys made?
They did not have Fridays.
Okay, but they made, excuse me, they met for every class every day.
They met for day one periods 1 through 4 plus advisory period, day 2, like the high school.
Okay, got it. Okay, interesting. So what me and Liv kind of briefly turned over was that do you guys think that having these all meet days, do you think that they would affect them? I know we're trying to get more content time, but sometimes more content time isn't as effective as we'd like it to be. And it's actually more damaging because then we don't want to pay attention and we're tired and we can't focus. So on their behalfs, because they're a little bit younger than us and it's harder for them, would there be any source of like trying to manage that so everyone's okay, kind of? Sorry, I'm really thinking about everyone here.
Sure. I think what we're seeing at the middle school is a little different because their schedule before had the advisory embedded and the homeroom embedded. And by removing that, we were able to have all of the periods without having that extended amount of time, right? So that would be one thing. The second thing is that the related arts, which again, we're trying to balance out core content with related arts, right? So those are the other types of classes that the students really enjoy. They were only getting it maybe once a month because it was on a cohort and then on an AB. And so then now by having the classes, they're able to get their related arts. So it's not just core content for the all meets, it's thinking about that holistically.
Okay, yeah, then I definitely misunderstood that. Okay, so I know you guys are still working on the elementary school schedules. But if I'm not mistaken, Olivia and I heard that you guys said a full hour of ELA. Is that correct?
Yes, and that's short. Usually they have an hour and a half. Yeah, because elementary is different, right? They're with a homeroom teacher all day long, and they're doing, when we're in high school, we're thinking about the class, we're receiving content, and then we're kind of working through the content at the elementary level. The teachers are, the morning message, they're introducing, direct instruction, and then the students work in small groups. They do their think per shares, they do their independent learning, and then they come back, right? So it's very much much more guided support through that lesson. They're pulling guided reading in small groups, and so then the amount of time that we devote to the content is much more extended, and so then we're really feeling that loss for reading. We do believe fundamentally that literacy is the base of everything, right? So the students really need to spend a lot of time reading and writing, and so then we want to give that back, and so that at the elementary schedule, when we reset it, it will give more time for the ELA.
Right, yeah, we just wanted to be sure on that. Also, I just got word about this. There is a petition on change.org to keep our fall schedule. I don't know if this affects anything, but the goal is 1,000, and every time I refresh the page, it keeps going up. We're currently at 825, and it went up to 826. It just keeps moving is what I'm trying to say. I'm not sure if this affects anything, but for the high schoolers, we would really like to keep this schedule. I can definitely send the link if it helps, but we would love to keep the schedule. This schedule is amazing, flawless. If we could keep it, we would keep it.
Yeah, and that's something that you would bring to your high school principal, and the principals are the leaders of the captains of their boats, right? And so then it would be Mr. Moore and that team there. We're really attempting to just provide some consistency and some parameters to the content, and to say that we want to be able to see our students accessing their content meaningfully, the rigor, right, every day. But again, he would have to respond to your petition.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not my petition. I actually
Or the student petition.
Okay. I believe that is it from me.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. I think all I have that wasn't stolen by somebody else was on the 13% who you said the survey said were struggling. Any commonalities there? Are we able to see if it's a particular grade level that's having a hard, or is it the younger grades more than the older grades, or a particular building, anything that you can glean, or is it kind of scattered?
Scattered.
All right. Mm-hmm. It's maybe that's good, actually, that it's not all in one place. Mm-hmm. All right, I think that's all I've got. Dr. C, anything to finalize here?
No, sir.
Oh, did you say no, sir?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. All right, then. I think we can move on to the next bit then, which would be agenda comments, unless you had something else.
I don't. No.
All right.
I'm sure we'll be discussing it in greater length as the evening goes
on. Seems like a possibility. All right. We're going to open up for questions from the public on agenda items only. As before, hit the button to raise your hand. You'll have 3 minutes. Be sure to let us know your name and your address. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, as Mr. Upper said, it's the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen. If you're one of our call-in attendees, it is *9. Again, for everyone in the audience, if you'd like to speak, you can push that button now. You do not have to wait for the last person to speak. You will be put in a queue. until it is your time to speak. And we actually, it's a little better for us if you do, so we have an idea of how many people are online in the queue. Last name of Peterson, I'm sorry, I do not want to butcher your beautiful first name. If you can follow the prompt on your screen. Naya?
Yes, that's
okay.
Hello. Yeah, my name is Naya Peterson. I'm currently a senior at West Orange High School this year. So of course I have a question about the high school agenda. In regards to that petition, yeah, it went around, and it's not just the seniors, it's all grades, just as an FYI, so you know that this is not just an issue that the seniors are bringing up. But one of my, I guess, like when we saw this schedule, it was almost like a blindsided us, because one, no students were told that the schedule was going to change. And I just feel like, it's our schedule, it's our schooling. Already this year has been unlike any other. And I feel like in these type of decisions, at least asking us or having us be able to put input into what happens to the rest of our school year would be nice. And that is why right now you might realize, if you look at the petition, that we probably by tomorrow will have more than half of the schools signed it already. A lot of kids are not happy because honestly, this has been a really, really hard year for everyone, mentally, physically. And the schedule that we've had recently has been just really accommodating to us for mental health, school-wise. Like Andre said, those Fridays are actually, in my opinion, I think they're necessary, especially as a senior who is applying to colleges, who is applying for scholarships, who is currently getting recruited for, like, we have so much on our plate that those Fridays are essential to just making sure that we stay on top of our grades, as well as balancing the rest of our life with college apps and just the corona pandemic and everything that's going on. I do understand why changes were made, but I feel like we were fine before we were able to get all of our work done. A lot of the kids were very content with how the Board of Ed had handled our scheduling, especially since a lot of us were upset that we were not going to be able to go back to school. And yeah, I just wanted to share that because I've realized that I share the same views as a lot of other senior students in West Orange High School.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And next we have Melinda Huerta. If you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, good evening. My name is Melinda Huerta, 17 Park Drive South, West Orange. I had a couple of comments, and it's been a long night, so I know all of you want to get back to or go to sleep eventually. One of the questions that I did have, it's kind of going off of what Mr. Alper had mentioned, with the data being collected, is it by school or by age? I know that we said, Ms. Mendez had mentioned that the data was only for elementary, so it's just kind of to give a overview of some type of numbers, but I think that to look into it, we would need to look into it more and ask maybe even specifically schools if the principals could collect data by either age or grade, grade or school buildings, so we can see really which schools, if any, or which particular grades are struggling. Then I also wanted to go off of Miss Celestine's suggestions. I love the suggestion of getting this input from the students directly. I would only ask not to forget the younger students, because as she mentioned, it is harder, and a lot of the times parents, us parents want the best for our children and don't always necessarily ask their opinion on how, what they feel and what they want in terms of school. I know for myself personally, we are in that 13%, that's 11% that is struggling and not doing well with virtual learning. For my older son who is at Central 6. And so by extending the day, I really don't know, or elongating the time of the periods, I don't know how he's going to take that when he finds out that he's going to have to do that. The other thing I wanted to ask was about the SEL. Is that going to be offered throughout not just the middle school, or is it going to be throughout the whole, all the grades? I had a couple of notes. Hold on one second. Oh, this is about the agenda item. In light of the social justice movement, what adjustments, if any, were made to the education and law enforcement agreement? And I'm running out of time. So one other question was, I noticed a time gap in the business administrators agreement with Mrs. Flowers. There seems to be a time gap between the time that she's going to be taking the role as business administrator and the day that Mr. Calavano's last day is. And also on the contract, it shows 6 months, not 12 months. And so I don't know if that was, maybe I was misreading the contract. And I believe that's all. My time is up. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Yeah. Oh, Melinda, it asked you to unmute again. You can ignore that one. I just double clicked by accident. Next we have, doing bad with names today. Last name is Lamore Reitza. If you can follow the prompt on your screen, and I apologize if I mispronounce that.
Yes, hello. Ritza Lamore, 50 Nicholas Avenue. I'm here just to discuss that my daughter asked me to come personally with these questions. She did say that she was concerned with the fact that some of these changes were made without asking the student body directly how it affected them and how they would feel with these changes. So she just wanted to know, one, if you are open to it, is there any way that if you did decide to make another decision like this, like if hybrid was pushed back again and you will need to make another change to the schedule for the students, is there any way that you would include the students in helping them with your decision with the schedule? Because she was saying that virtual learning she's one of the people that was having a hard time with it. And while she didn't tell me directly, but she did come to me when she found out about the schedule, and then finally decided to tell me about how virtual learning did have a hard impact on her, which is another reason why I feel like when you just come to the parents, students necessarily, the children don't always come to their parents and tell them the truth about how they're feeling. But if you went to the students directly, it might be easier for them to come to you and tell them the truth instead of parents answering for their children. And if I did ask her and she would say that she's fine, even though she really isn't fine, how, the data may be tainted in that way. It may say majority that some people are feeling good, but in reality, they may not be, because they don't want to go to their parents and have to sit down and have that conversation about how their mental health may not be in the place where they think that it is or would hope that it is. So she wanted me to come to you and say that maybe it would be better to reach out to them personally, or if you would want to have both the parents and the students' information, if you would send out another form, half of it could be questions for parents to answer, and the other half would be for students to answer. Just so you could get a broader aspect in case that is what you're deciding to do. Just because, like Ms. Peterson was saying, there are some things that she feels that is better for her as a student, as a senior, who's going through things, but you may not yourself figure out without asking her directly before things will be made. But that's all I really wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Dr. Janice Johnson-Dias. If you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, my name is Marley Dias. I'm a student at West Orange High School. I live at 272 St. Cloud Avenue, and I am a junior in high school, and I find that I really prefer the current schedule we have. I suffer from migraines the same way Audrey does, and a lot of mental health stress with spending more time independently having to make sure that I'm working out the things that I wasn't paying attention to in class or the things that I did not understand. And I find that because I don't have as much of a personal connection with my teachers, it is really difficult to always stay on top of my work. And I think that having more synchronous time, which means more homework, which means trying to cover more in shorter amounts of time, will not help with that. But the main thing I struggle with is my physical health and the strain on my eyes, which will then lead to the strain on my brain. And I want to know how the school district plans to account for both the back problems of sitting up at a desk and having rules about how we have to present ourselves in class, and the eye strain and spending 4 to 6 hours sitting there trying to reteach myself things that I may not understand. And what the Board of Ed or West Orange High School specifically plans to do, whether that's providing blue light blocking resources and materials, providing more mental health support to help students that are struggling and not to add more to their plate. Because I don't think that school and adding more school will reinforce or necessarily help, but I think it only puts pressure on teachers to try to do more in a shorter amount of time. So I'd really appreciate understanding how you plan to account for the physical detriments of online school and spending more time on a screen. Thank you.
Thank you.
How about that, Marley? I guess you're on your mom's account. Okay, next we have Sky. If you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Okay, hi, you guys can hear me, right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I just wanted to know.
Sky, honey, I'm sorry, we just need your name and address for the record.
Oh, sorry. My name is Skylar Brooks. I'm a junior at West Orange High School, and I live at 56 Wellington Avenue.
Thanks.
So I just wanted to know, like, the logic behind taking away the asynchronous days. I know that many kids and many of my friends that are like currently in school really take into consideration how they feel about the asynchronous days, and I think I can speak for everybody when we say we enjoy those days, because it felt like kind of how we were learning when we were when we first got quarantined back in March. So I just wanted to know what's the logic behind taking away those days. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, the person we have just has a period as their name. I'm going to ask you if you can just follow the prompt on your screen and give us your name and address for the record, please.
There's just a period. I don't really know what happened. I'm a senior at West Orange High School. My address is 18 Ronald Terrace. I basically just wanted.
I'm sorry, can we have your name again? We didn't get your name.
Oh yeah, Rachel Brody.
Thanks.
Yeah, I basically just wanted to come on here because I feel like the main reason you guys said that we're switching the schedule is to get more content in and really focus on the education, which as a student, I totally understand. But I think what's happening is you guys are trying to set up a similar education system to what we had. But, you know, obviously circumstances are different and we're in a pandemic, and I can't speak for everyone, but personally, my mental health was drastically affected by being at home and not interacting with my classmates and not interacting with my teachers and stuff like that. So the asynchronous day, the reason it was important to me is because number one, it gave me I got to have one-on-one with teachers. Like they did office hours when I would have class. So I got to step in and I got to do those private talks, and I got to interact. And it also gave me the mental break that I needed. And I understand we didn't need a mental break when we were in normal school, but this isn't normal circumstance, you know? And I feel like trying to make us get the same amount of content as we used to get is only going to be worse. And, you know, a lot of people have mentioned mental health before, but it's a seriously pressing issue for teenagers. So I don't know. I just feel like it shouldn't really only be about the content. I understand that it's a school, but you're also talking about people's lives and their mental stability and their health. And that should also be considered when making such drastic decisions like taking away the only day we kind of had to take a rest from the crazy situation that we're in right now. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Sky, I see that you re-raised your hand. Unfortunately, we only allow for one time when you're at the public comment. There is another time later in the meeting if you'd like to speak again, unless this is someone else who is speaking. So you can keep your hand. Okay, thank you. Amanda Olvera, if you can follow the prompt on your screen. Amanda, if you're there, you can follow the prompt on your screen to unmute. Okay, I'm going to come back to Amanda. And Madison Cogdell, if you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Hello, I'm Madison Cogdell. I'm a senior at Western High School. And I just wanted to read the, sorry, one second. I just wanted to read the caption of the petition because I think it's very important that it is brought to attention. So it says, in light of recent events, the West Orange Board of Education has made the outrageous decisions to change our schedule. Our current virtual schedule has been successful in accounting for accurate amounts of class time. It allowed us to get the education we need while not in school, while still allowing us to pursue a life outside of school. West Orange Board of Education also failed to take into account for all students' mental health as we are going through a pandemic that has disrupted our lives and has also put ourselves and our loved ones in danger. Everything we have gotten used to and have worked towards has been taken away. They have extended our class periods 5 minutes, which is pointless. To begin with, because there's nothing more that we will be able to learn within a 5-minute period. And I completely agree with that because you continue to say like, oh, we need more content time, but I don't think 5 minutes is going to really affect that. But anyways, taking away Asynchronous Friday, which is a day for students to get a break from Zoom. And I think you really need to take into account that people have jobs and sports after school. And yes, I understand we need to have labs and certain things like that. But for people who have AP Bio and like another lab, I don't think it's fair for students to still be in school till 2:15. And me personally, I leave to go to practice at 3 o'clock. So I don't think that's enough time for me to have after school help with my teachers and stuff like that. And I just don't think it's enough time. Personally, I don't know. I'm not in favor of this at all. And I just really want you guys to take that into account. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. And I'm gonna see if Amanda, if you can follow the prompt on your screen. Amanda Olvera. Hi, Amanda. Oh, yep, you were just there. You just unmuted. Nope. Okay. We're gonna go to Celia Murphy. If you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, my name is Celia Murphy Bronstein from 15 Blackburn Terrace, West Orange, New Jersey. I'm a senior at that high school, and to add on to what a lot of the students have been saying at the meeting, I think that it's just a bit overwhelming to suddenly have our schedules changed. Although I do agree that we probably need to make some changes to our schedule. I myself am taking 4 APs. I'm on a club swim team in the afternoons. I have clubs and honor societies, and I have to find a way to balance all of it, which I've usually been fine with adapting to and managing. But I've been feeling pretty overwhelmed, as I'm sure everyone else has been, with finding that, especially with COVID. And so I was wondering if you plan to make any adjustments to the schedule that you guys have created that would account for after school activities that might overlap with them. And then also for after school, office hours. I know for honor societies, they were talking about having us students come in and tutor, but we don't know how, I personally don't know how I would be able to enter those office hours to help tutor if it's also overlapping with my club swim team or any of my other clubs that I have to help run. And additionally, I have a winter sport that may or may not be coming up soon, depending on if winter sports are allowed. And in addition to that, I would be doing double practices, one earlier in the afternoon, one later at night from 8 to 9 p.m. So it's not a lot of time to manage all of my coursework and all of my activities, in addition to college applications, scholarships, test prep, etc. It's just very overwhelming. So I was wondering if you guys had a plan to make adjustments to account for the students' mental health and stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to try one more time for Amanda. If you can follow the prompt on your screen. Okay. Amanda, you there?
Hi, sorry, I never raised my hand, so I did not have questions.
Oh, you might have hit it by accident then. The hand was raised. No problem. And next we have Lisa Maxwell. If you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Hi, my name is Amina Anekwe. I live at 13 Sarone Court, West Orange, New Jersey, and I'm a junior. One of my main grievances with this new school schedule is that it doesn't take into account how it will increase our anxiety as students. I am an honors and AP student. This will push back my schedule. I already have a lot of homework and it's just going to make me a lot more anxious. So I would hope that you start listening to the students' concerns. Also changing the schedule and adding in a new drop schedule is confusing for many students, and it will be confusing given technology issues and joining new links, and all of that will cause a bunch of confusion. And my question is, given that nearly 900 students and counting have signed a petition to revise this new schedule, what do you plan to do to address our concerns?
Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Sandra Mordecai. If you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Sure, thank you. Sandra Mordecai, 516 Pleasant Valley Way. First of all, I just want to applaud the students who have spoken up tonight. They have all been amazing, as well as the student liaison. Was a survey of the students done by the district regarding the asynchronous day, Friday, and this new schedule? I just want to find that out. And then I have questions on the agenda. The organization chart that's being approved tonight, No Child Left Behind doesn't exist anymore. Will the title be changed of that person? Director of Buildings and Grounds, that title was changed a few weeks ago, I guess to move Mr. Siggy out of administration and to put him in the union. Will the new Buildings and Ground Director, will this person also cover the high school, as Mr. Siggy did not cover the high school? I see you're hiring a Tanya Flowers as a business administrator. I guess we should say welcome back, because she was a math teacher in the district at one point at Edison. I just want to find out, this is a very large district which transports 5,000 students plus special ed out of district, co-curricular, extracurricular. What is her background in regards to that? What is the largest budget she's ever worked with? We have an ESIP in place. We have biddings, RFPs, bonding, construction, benefits. I just want to know what our background is. The Executive Director of Special Services. How many executive directors does the district now have? And are those positions now where a waiver has to be filed in Trenton? I know when I first started my term on the board, they had to file a waiver for these unapproved types of names. Let's see. And are all the director positions going to be in the union? I see for English at the high school, 5 people are splitting the job for the leave replacement for Biddle. And for math for Roosevelt, 4 people are splitting the job for Meliero. I may have mispronounced that. I think it might be more cost effective to hire a temporary person for both English and math. That would be non-pensionable, as there would be no benefits as well. The MOA between the Board of Ed and law enforcement, has this been viewed through the lens of not only Black Lives Matter initiatives, but also with the pledge signed by the West Orange mayor and the police chief at the June rally held by our awesome young advocates and future leaders? Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we just had it listed as Susan. If you can follow the prompt on your screen, please. Give us your name, address for the record.
Good evening, everyone. This is Susan Palmucci, 55 Liberty Street. I have a senior at West Orange High School. I am sitting here and I'm listening to all the students' concerns, how they're very upset. I hope you're listening as well. I believe if we hold off on a new schedule and take our time and send out a survey to the students of the high school and possibly the middle school about what their thoughts are about the schedule being changed. It can wait until after Thanksgiving to make any kind of changes. If they could get these 1,000 signatures in just a few hours, certainly you can get 2,100 surveys back in a week. And that way you would have a better understanding of how the students feel. I am hearing anxiety. I am hearing depression. I am hearing stress. That's a problem for me as a parent. That should be a problem for you as administrators and as the Board of Ed. We talk about social and emotional learning, but I don't know if we're truly grasping it because these students are struggling. Students in AP classes, students in honors classes, students in regular college prep classes are struggling with virtual learning. They're struggling with the lack of contact with their peers, lack of contact with their teachers. And to not fully understand that is a disservice to them. So I would like just to put out a survey to the students at the high school to see if they can, in fact, come up with another solution to the schedule. I don't see why we need to change the schedule. There are students with more than one lab. There's some students with 2 labs, 3 labs. And to change the schedule is not beneficial to them at all. And I understand what Dr. Cascone said about they're not going to please everyone all the time. Totally understand that. But when you have 900 signatures in just a few hours, that should set off a light to you and something's not right. And I would be very concerned about my high schoolers. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Next, it just says Scott, if you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Yes, hi. I just have a couple questions because, first of all, Scott Levy, 50 Fowler Drive, West Orange. You said that you're looking to go back to a hybrid and you're ready to change at any moment. So therefore, there'd be no more consistency. You'd then be changing these schedules again. Isn't it better once we figure out what to at least keep it for a marking period? So there's some sort of consistency here rather than changing a schedule, changing it again when it goes back to hybrid. Then if we have to close it, goes back. And also when you're looking at the high school schedule, it's kind of all over the place. It's periods 1, 2, 3, 4, then it's 6, 7, 8, 9, and it's 4, 6, 2, 8. It's like there's no consistency for the kids. And in the middle school, you are extending the time, by about an hour. And that's just more time on the screen. My concern is you're just going to lose people by just keeping them on the screen longer, and hopefully, more content, I understand, but if that, in turn, translates to increased work and not having increased deadlines, all you're doing is having kids stare at screens for a longer period of time, even though there's a 30-minute break and you're taking 5 minutes away in between. But it just doesn't look like there's any consistency. If you're ready to pivot at any moment, that means this whole consistency thing is out the window, because then you're going to change these schedules again. And then if there's another problem, you're going to have to change them again. So should we be looking at whatever this schedule that we figure out now, at least keep it for a marking period and then figure out what the next step is? Because you're constantly going to change these schedules. And as I'm hearing already, there's enough stress and anxiety by, getting rid of the asynchronous day or changing something for 5 minutes. Really, the middle school is even, they're gaining an hour more a day. If they were ending about 12:30, now it's going to be about 1:30. But now you're just going to have them staring at these screens longer, throughout the day. Just there's no consistency. And again, if you're ready to pivot, it's just all going to change again. There's something to think about. Consistency is what we need, especially with more of the younger kids, middle schools, especially. I mean, high school is a little different, but even for them, as you can hear the stress that it's putting on. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, Delia, if you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, I'm Delia Kravitz. I'm a sophomore from West Orange High School, 276 Gregory Avenue. So I just want to bring to light as to like why we feel so strongly as students about this schedule change, because I know to some people, students and faculty both, it seems like we're acting a little too crazy and making petitions and being this passionate. But my opinion is that we're all going crazy because this year of 2020 has already been nothing but chaotic and crazy. And there has been no organization because this pandemic has messed up everything. And I think that this schedule gave everyone a sense of organization that we didn't have for a while. And everyone became comfortable, including like me and a bunch of people I know became comfortable and happy with the schedule we had, and people molded their personal lives and their work lives around it. So it's very jarring to have it change this quickly when we've become so used to it, especially having our one free day to take a breath being taken away. That can be super hard to handle because, like many students, that day for me was to work at my own pace and get help from teachers and spend time with my family and just take a deep breath, which is needed for everybody. So I think that we can sacrifice that one Friday day of Zoom content to give every student a chance to breathe, because at the end of the day, mental health for everybody should be a priority. You know, we constantly say it's a priority, so we should act like it is. And I know you're getting a lot of harsh criticism, but this is just me saying that we just want you guys to listen and know that we are in, we're struggling and we just want to be heard. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is Pri. If you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
I can't get to the prompt.
Oh, no, you got it.
Oh, hi. How's everyone doing this evening? My name is Pri. I'm on Lorelei Road in West Orange. And I just wanted to say that the fact that so many students are speaking out at a Board of Education meeting at this late at night, it just speaks volumes in itself that the student body feels so strongly about this. And this is a decision that affects them, not the parents per se. They're the ones that have to sit in front of the screen. And the other concern I have is that they're not getting any physical activity as it is. When they're in school and when they're in class and they're switching classes or they're going to gym class, at least they're getting some kind of stretching and physical activity. There should be some type of way to try to incorporate some physical movement for the kids in there, like some type of maybe fun way to make them all stretch and engage. And if they're on camera already, you know, something to keep them up and motivated. So I know this has been challenging for everyone, but I just want to say I'm really proud of our kids in West Orange for the way they handled this and the way they spoke tonight. A lot of them spoke more eloquently than some of us adults can. So that's what I'd like to say. Have a great night.
Thanks.
Thank you. And next we have S. Vessier. If you can follow the prompt on your screen.
Hi, yes, I live at 15 Sime Avenue. And I just want to echo with what some of the other parents said, and I also wanted to compliment the student liaison. It was the first time tonight that when she spoke, I actually kind of, I heard what other students have said and what my son is feeling. It seems like an abrupt change. He's an 8th grader. He could probably adjust eventually. It just seems like a lot at one time to extend the day, do away with asynchronous learning, and to not have advisory. It just seems like a lot at one time. I'm just wondering why a survey wasn't sent out to the parents. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have one of our call-in attendees. Last 3 numbers of the phone is 971. You can unmute your phone. Last 4 digits, 7971. There should be a prompt on your telephone, or you can unmute. Okay. Unfortunately, I can't unmute you. You would have to unmute yourself. One last call for 7971 on the telephone. There's a prompt on your screen to unmute. There you are. Can you hear us? Yes.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Juliet Figliolo, and I'm actually the one that made the petition. And I just wanted to speak on how all the students, when the schedule came out, everybody was really concerned about it, because I feel like for the schedule, the elementary school kids were taking into account and middle school kids, but not really high school kids, and how we really need the asynchronous Fridays, especially to get caught up with all the work, because a lot of the kids in high school, especially the seniors, have applications to do, sports, work, volunteering hours, all to finish by the end of the year. And I feel like it's very unfair that we weren't really taken into account at all. And how everybody was saying before that there should have been a survey, because I feel like student voices are very important. And when making decisions, the school really doesn't put in to account for the students at all. And I think that with everybody coming out today saying how there's an issue, it should really be listened to, because at the end of the day, it is the students that matter the most for the school.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And next we have Ellen. If you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
This is the first time I've ever raised my hand, but my daughter is in 11th grade. I live at 1480 Pleasant Valley Way, and I watched her anxiety rise as she was reading this notice. And I just want to say, obviously, adding to, echoing what everyone here is saying, with, statistics showing that anxiety and depression are a real problem among high school kids right now due to staying home and having to adapt. Adding this kind of stress change is so hard for people in general. And this kind of change, I just don't see how it could be anything but detrimental. And these kids are so powerful and they're so amazing. Listening to them is just so incredibly inspiring. And I think we really have to take into consideration, if we are, as Susan Palmucci said, going to dedicate ourselves to social emotional learning, then you've got to take the emotional life of these kids into consideration. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Chrisabel. If you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Hello. My name is Crystal. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yes, you're good.
Okay. Hi, my name is Crystal. I'm 15 Maurice Avenue. I'm a sophomore at the West Orange High School. When I heard about the news about the new schedule, it reminded me of a lesson I had today about changing the U.S. Constitution. However, instead of saying that I believe we should change the Constitution, I'm going to say the complete opposite that I said in class, and say that this change in schedule is completely unnecessary. Also, I don't mean like anything rude or anything. I'm just no disrespect to anybody. Many of us have just now started to get used to this fall schedule and getting used to the pain of sitting in front of a computer for hours and hours to end. And now seeing as you are adding more hours, it makes it seem really unfair. Some changes like the switching in the order of class periods on Wednesday and Thursday also seem really unnecessary because we still have the same classes as always. It's just like it switches. It's really confusing for all of us. Fridays are days that students can work at their own pace. Personally, I have had a really tough time these past few weeks with family issues, and school is on the top of the list of what has been giving me anxiety. I have had a really bad meltdowns because of work, and as a student with all honor classes, of course, I will work hard. But it feels as if you don't listen to the students. You always say mental health first. Well, then what happened to that? Because I don't see you asking the students about how they feel about this. Please listen to us for once and don't make a mistake you might regret, which won't benefit either students or teachers. Please also take a look at the petition because we're almost at 1,000 people. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Tracy O'Hara. If you can please follow the prompt on your screen.
Hi, Tracy O'Hara, 7 Elmwood Avenue. I am also calling about the change in the schedule. I am a parent of a sophomore at the high school, and the amount of work that these kids have is already tremendous. And in my daughter's case, she's working really hard, but it's only November. We have a long road potentially ahead of us, and I already see her starting to burn out. And as we all know, burnout is brought on by higher levels of stress, anxiety, and exhaustion. And this change is creating a lot of additional stress, anxiety, and exhaustion to these kids. I worry that they're going to start feeling overwhelmed, irritable, exhausted. It certainly adds to a lack of attention, difficulty concentrating, being disengaged, withdrawing from others, loss of motivation, all of the things that will only hurt their education in the long run. So I really think we need to listen to these students. They have called in and they have spoken up. And, the most effective voice that we can hear in the struggles in education is the students themselves. The students are telling us what they need, and they're expressing these needs in such an eloquent way that this is the opportunity for us to let them know that their voices matter, that we're listening to them, that they matter. And this will encourage them also to speak up in the future and take control of the things that they feel passionate about. I think this opportunity that is presented to the administration right now is, are you going to listen to the students and let them know that they matter and their opinion matters? That's all. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Julie Bookbinder, if you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Hi, Julie Bookbinder, 37 Collimore Circle. Just wanted to comment on two things. First, to echo what some others have said, the high school students have just been so impressive and inspiring with their feedback, and I do hope it's taken into account. Secondly, as a parent of an elementary student whose schedule has not been announced yet, I hope that some of that same feedback will be considered for the elementary students. I was glad to hear Ms. de Menendez talk about an interest in additional small group work, but I hope that is balanced against the amount of other assignments that the children are getting. So if they have additional small groups in afternoons or on Fridays, I hope that lessens the amount of additional homework that they have to turn in after those extra hours spent online, which I do think are really valuable for engagement with the teachers and the students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And at this time, do I have anyone else who would like to speak from questions from public agenda items? It's the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen. Carol Ann Holland, if you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, Carol Ann Holland, 71 Lawrence Avenue. Sorry, I thought my hand was up before. First, I just want to commend all of the high school students. I am so impressed by them. My son is also very concerned. He has chronic migraines and he's already having a difficult time with the amount of time on screen. He's a senior, by the way. The other concern that we had today actually was that a teacher told the kids they had to use their Chromebook in order to do a quiz. He has a computer with a special screen filter, and we've got him all completely ergonomically set up so that he can combat the migraines to the best of his ability. So it's difficult for him to then switch to the small screen on the Chromebook without the blue filter. If Ms. Celestine, the student liaison, is right and there can be blue light filters, I would really encourage that. But I actually called in to speak more about the middle school because they're not really getting a voice. I asked my 8th grader about this and he's concerned as well. And I believe that the student liaison brought this up, that having all 8 classes is going to could potentially be overwhelming. And that's how my son feels. He also has chronic migraines. Lengthening his day is not going to be good. He will actually leave a Zoom call, go to the bathroom, throw up, come back to the Zoom call. And when he knows he's only got 4 classes that he has to focus through, despite the pain and the nausea, he can do it. I have a feeling there are going to be a lot more days that he comes to me and says, Mom, I can't do it anymore. And it's going to be real hard for me to say, you've just got 1 more class, you can hang in there. I also just want to, the kids have already talked a lot about their stress and anxiety. And a lot of what you're hearing is what would be normal stress and anxiety. But I want to point out that there's also anxiety about the pandemic itself. Kids are scared that they are going to lose loved ones. They're scared of getting sick. They're scared of getting other people sick. And that's just an overwhelming underlying feature on top of everything else. And finally, for all of the parents who've complained so much about my kids aren't getting enough time in school, I want you to know that if you were to actually homeschool, not with the school district curriculum, it would take you much less than 6 hours a day to cover the curriculum because kids aren't having to do all the transitions, etc. I'm out of time. I don't know if that made sense. Thank you all. Please listen to the students. At least give them time to adjust. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. And Andrea O, or Andrea O, I apologize if I mispronounced. If you can follow the prompt on your screen.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
How are you? This is Andrea O'Brien. My daughter is at 10 Foss Court in West Orange. And I just wanted to speak on behalf of the kids. When this first came up with the schedule, I remember what it was like being 16 and 17 years old. I did the work of asking the questions around the current schedule and whether or not, just trying to feel out whether or not it's just a sense of having more work. And if it was excuses, what have you. However, after talking to the kids, and many of the kids on the call tonight are kids I know. These are not kids that shirk their responsibilities. They're not kids that don't do their work. The majority of them are in honors and AP courses. These kids have very real concerns. I've watched her and her friends manage their time at the level of college students to the point where I'm extremely proud of them. And I worry a lot less about what they're going to be like when they get to campus because they're doing this so well under pressure, better than a lot of adults are that I've been working from home for years, and now working from home with the pandemic, I see the stress that adults are under, and I see how these kids are handling this as well as they can during times when they would really, be socializing, falling in love, talking to other kids, really growing socially. They're handling this so well. The addition of this Friday and this abrupt change in schedule just feels detrimental. It feels unnecessary at this time. It doesn't feel like it has to happen right now. And that the kids really should be included in this decision so that they have a chance to collaborate with you all on what this could look like if content is really the issue. If it's not the issue and we're trying to normalize an unnormal situation, that's something else that you need to look at, because this is not normal time. We're not going back to normal anytime soon. So this needs to look different than just, we need 5 days of school. So what I really want to do is advocate for these kids. Again, the kids that you had on the line tonight are not students that take this lightly. And as this work increases, so will the pressure on the kids, and in turn, the pressure on the family unit. So please consider their words, consider them carefully, and think hard about whether or not this schedule change needs to happen. And if it does need to happen, if it needs to happen as soon as Monday. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Katie Witzig. If you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, we could just have your name and address for the record, please.
Sure, Katie Witzig, 49 Manger Road. I just want to circle back a second to the elementary school and the upcoming proposals that are going to be coming out. I just want to start out by saying what an amazing job the teachers have been doing this year. My son is in 5th grade, and I mean, you can't say enough about the amazing job that they're doing. The addition of the synchronistic Spanish was wonderful starting last week. So happy to see that. And I felt really encouraged when Mr. Mendez was talking about that the schedule be revisited and that will be announced hopefully in the next week or so to enhance their learning. Looking forward, I just want to make sure that we're keeping in mind that we're not only looking to focus on those students that are struggling and how we can help better serve them, but also those that are successful at e-learning and how we can enhance their learning as well. And And I also hope that listening to the challenges that obviously the board is going to have in the next couple of days, looking at the proposed changes that you've put out there for high school and middle school, I hope that that doesn't deter you in looking at the elementary school schedule and making some adjustments that you think are necessary based on the survey you put out, but also on what you've seen and you've learned from the teachers and what's going on at the elementary school level. So thank you very much for the work you guys are putting in to give all of our students the best opportunity. And I know I don't have a high schooler, so I can't speak to that, but I know that the changes that are being made and considered, you're doing your due diligence, I think, to do the research that needs to go in so that everybody can benefit. And like everyone said, this is times we never thought we'd be in. And I think everybody's trying to make the best decisions they can for all the groups involved. So I thank you all for the hard work you have ahead of you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Aaron Kesselman, if you can follow the prompt on your screen, please.
Hi, this is Rebecca Moses, his wife, 1 Galloway Court, West Orange. First of all, I have to commend our high school students also. That was an incredibly impressive display of their feelings. But I have a mild suggestion, which is that since the needs of our elementary school students, our middle school students, and our high school students are so different, and I think the comments tonight have shown that there is a wild variety of opinion on all of this based primarily on those ages. I would really love to see some sort of town hall for elementary school students, a separate one for middle school students, and a separate one for high school students, so that each cohort of ages can really get their specific needs addressed, have their voices heard, and get specific answers. I think it would be incredibly helpful for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And this is the final call for those who'd like to speak on the public agenda items. And that is it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll close that part out. Dr. Cascone.
Thank you, Mr. Alper. Am I muted? No,
Nope.
I'm not
No, you're
muted.
good.
Wow, just waiting for you, Scruff Tisa. All right. All right. I thank you to all of our students who came tonight. Suffice to say, you've made an impression. And your feedback definitely merits further consideration and discussion internally with Mrs. Mendez, with Mr. Moore. When something just hits you a certain way, and obviously, I've always said that here to first and foremost serve the students. And I think what makes decision making very challenging in this environment is that we're in an unprecedented set of circumstances. Circumstances change, right? So even if we were in these unprecedented circumstances and we didn't have these various transitions whereby, for example, initially we were intending to open, and we became aware of the fact that we had ventilation issues that needed to be remediated, and so then we pivoted, right? And then we were preparing to open on November 9th, and cases go up, and here we pivot again. And so what happens is, in our effort to adjust to these pivots, we make decisions, and we don't necessarily always make those decisions aligned with best practices in decision making, which I can just say for me personally, administratively, that I have come to know are those best practices. Namely, that we are as inclusive as possible with all stakeholder groups that are impacted by these decisions. We're operating in what we feel is in the best interest, but we may be making decisions without all the relevant and appropriate feedback. And so, what I can tell you is that obviously we've been equipped tonight with feedback from a very crucial group of stakeholders, which are students. We have a petition circulating, which represents feedback from student stakeholders to some extent. And we really, I would argue, and I don't want to speak, I don't want to be presumptuous and speak on behalf of the board. I'm just speaking merely as the superintendent. I feel we're obliged to go back now being armed with this feedback, which we hadn't had previous knowledge and insight, which we did not have when we made the decision, and go back and re-look at the decision. Now, I can't promise you that the decision will change, but we're absolutely obliged to go back and reevaluate it based upon the feedback that we've had, and maybe to put out a more comprehensive survey to our parent constituency to understand, in addition to our students, really the extent to which there is this feeling in our parent community that there is this need. If we look at our elementary survey, and I don't know the number exactly, but I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 60+%, in the mid 60s of our elementary parents that felt that the schedule was just right. So reevaluating, what percentage of our secondary parents actually feel as if we need more, right? So I think it definitely merits would have to be rather expeditious follow-up to understand how this feedback might impact the ultimate decision. But know that you've made your impression, and that you've been heard, and that we will circle back and take a closer look at this, because we certainly, if by this decision, we're creating additional strain and stress on students across the board, we obviously want to take a closer look at that. Just a couple of, so again, thank you to our students for coming, and, I appreciate everything you said tonight. So as far as principals collecting data by grade, age, and school, the spreadsheets that we have can be disaggregated by school and by grade. It's an excellent idea to kind of compare those responses by grade. I would imagine, I'm going to hypothesize that the percentage of students who require significant time of support from family at home are probably in our primary grades, in our kindergarten and first grades, but that is an excellent suggestion. So as far as the memorandum of agreement with law enforcement, nothing really changed from previous years, though we do now have a feature within our memorandum of agreement that in critical emergencies, for example, if for example we had, God forbid, an active shooter situation or something of that nature, that our police department would, in times like that, have access to our surveillance, but only in times of critical emergency. Other than that, the memorandum of agreement has remained the same as it has been in the past. I can tell you that the document was really just developed internally, but if there are any student groups or advocacy groups within the community that would be interested in scheduling some time with me to sit down and to look at it, certainly open to do that, and be transparent with the document and have an open conversation about that. Okay, just want to address some questions from Mrs. Mordecai. So the director, I don't know if Mrs. Mordecai meant it this way, but the director of buildings and grounds was actually, that position was removed from the Administrators Association and is now an unaffiliated position. And, as far as, the oversight for that position, obviously our new director who we hired tonight, Mr. Semino, we certainly will ask him to look at the present state of operations and oversight. From my perspective, it certainly makes sense for all maintenance, grounds, and custodial staff to be operating under the auspices of a single director. As far as our new BA, And while, you know, I'm not going to necessarily go into specifics about Mrs. Flowers' qualifications, I can tell you that that the process was a rigorous one that involved multi levels of process, starting with a paper screening, an initial screening, telephone screening interview with the director of personnel, a third round screening with the director of personnel and myself, a panel round, which involved a larger group of internal administrators, including our sitting business administrator, and then a final performance-based round, which involved myself, the director of personnel, and we had 2 board member representatives. We feel very confident in Mrs. Flowers' qualifications for the job, and expecting that she will do very well in that position. As far as the executive director of special services, these positions do not require waivers from Trenton, but as they are not orthodox job titles, the job title, job description itself, but really the job title requires prior approval from the county executive superintendent. And we did secure that approval from the county executive superintendent for that position. And really what we're doing here is doing some, you know, some kind of incremental administrative reorganization. In this case, really placing really a second tier of senior administration that fall below the superintendent, but reside above the other administrators. And what you may have also noticed is that we've shifted the director of student counseling under the executive director of special services, as we see it kind of being in more of an all-encompassing pupil and personnel services role. When it comes to the replacement positions, you're absolutely right. I mean, it is more cost effective to hire a replacement. I can tell you that we post any position that you see us go with an additional assignment, or in what some districts is called a 6th period. We have posted multiple times for the position. We've advertised, and we've been unable to secure a qualified person for that position. And I think particularly when you're talking about these short-term leaves, it becomes even more difficult. And of course, as we know, with thousands really of staff members having taken leaves across the state, the applicant pool for some of these more specialized positions is even more limited than usual. So when you see us do an additional assignment like that, it really is only after an exhaustive search, you know, for a longer term candidate. Yeah, and so I think this has been a tremendously eye-opening and you know, has made an impression. I appreciate it. I've always, you know, in my time interviewing for this position, you know, and all along, I've said, listen, when something hits me in a certain way, you know, I'm going to be honestly reflective about our process, and I can't deny you know, some of the holes in the process this time around, insofar as gathering stakeholder feedback. That is simply undeniable. And we're glad that you came forth with it. And we will now be able to take that into consideration and make the most informed decision possible. Recognize that it is coming from from good intentions. You know, we understand that in a typical brick and mortar school day, you're in school every day. You're in school for 6 or 7 hours a day. We want to make sure that we're not leaving students behind, either students who may not necessarily be achieving at grade level, or students who are, you know, operating at you know, an accelerated advanced placement track, that you're getting the content, you're getting the learning that you need, and that's setting you up for success in the next chapter of your life academically. So understand that it is absolutely coming from the right place. But again, I appreciate the feedback that was given tonight. And I believe that covers it, Mr. Alper. The board had any thoughts?
All right, thank you very much. All right, moving along. Next up, second reading of bylaw number 0164.06, remote public board meetings during a declared emergency. May I have a motion for that second reading?
I'll motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none. Mr. Calavano.
Marklinger,
Yes.
Mr. Rothstein,
Yes.
Ms. Tunnicliffe,
Yes.
Vice President Trigg Scales,
Yes.
President Alper.
Yes. All right, may I have a motion for personnel items 1 through 8?
I'll motion. Second.
Any discussion? Giving the remote folks a little more time there. All right, seeing none, Mr. Calavano.
Mrs. Marklinger,
Yes.
Mr. Rothstein,
Yes.
Mrs. Tunnicliffe,
Yes.
Vice President Trigg Scales,
Yes.
President Alper.
Yes. All right, next, curriculum and instruction items 1 through 5. May I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion? All right, Mr. Calavano.
Mrs. Marklinger,
Yes.
Mr. Rothstein,
Yes.
Mrs. Tunnicliffe,
Yes.
Vice President Trigg Scales,
Yes.
President Alper.
Yes. All right, finance, special services item 1 and business office items 1 through 6. May I have a motion?
So moved. I'll second.
Any discussion?
I think to check my, yes, okay. So, Mr. Calavano, I would just like to ask if at some point in the future, you could provide us with the, from the bills and claims list, what we've spent out of the CARES grant. That's it.
All right. Anyone else? Seeing none. Oh, wait.
Oh, I was just going to say thank you to the Petrucci family for
Oh, gosh,
the
yes, thank you.
donation, very generous donation to the West Orange High School football team. So thank you so much.
Sorry, I missed that. Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for that. Good catch. Mr. Calavano.
Mrs. Marklinger,
Yes.
Mr. Rothstein,
Yes.
Mrs. Tunnicliffe,
Yes.
Vice President Trigg Scales,
Yes.
President Alper.
Yes. All right, miscellaneous item 1. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All right, Mr. Calavano.
Mrs. Marklinger,
Yes.
Mr. Rothstein,
Yes.
Mrs. Tunnicliffe,
Yes.
Vice President Trigg Scales,
Yes.
President Alper.
Yes. And reports item 1. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there HIB?
And I'll second it.
We
All
didn't
that's
get it yet.
Distributed.
Did. Oh. Sorry. Got long hours. Thank you.
This is affirming the report from 1026, which was on the agenda for consideration, which I had presented as that I had reviewed, and this is really just affirming that that recommendation.
Gotcha. Okay. Now that we have it, can we have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Right, Mr. Calavano.
Mrs. Marklinger,
Yes.
Mr. Rothstein,
Yes.
Ms. Tunnicliffe,
Yes.
Vice President Trigg Scales,
Yes.
President Alper.
Yes. All right. Petitions and hearings of citizens, 3 minutes on any topic at all. Same format as before.
Thank you. Again, it's to raise your hand button at the bottom of the screen. It is *9 if you're calling in. And again, you do not have to wait for someone to stop talking in order for you to raise your hand. It will put you in a queue. Melinda, if you can follow the prompt on your screen, please. Melinda Huerta, If you can follow the prompt on your screen. Melinda? Oh, nope. Unraised her hand. There's nobody else raising their hand right now. So if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand now. Melinda, are you there?
Hello?
There you are.
Hi, I'm sorry. I don't know what was going on.
No, it's okay.
Good evening, Melinda Huerta, 17 Park Drive South. I just wanted to mention again, I didn't know, I don't think it was addressed, but the time gap in the contract for Mrs. Flowers.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I did notice that January 17th, June 30th is 6 months, not 12. And then also when Mr. Calavano leaves, it's going to be, I believe, January 1st, and she's not supposed to start until the 17th. There was another question I had. Let me see 1 second. Oh, what is the status of our current contract negotiations? And thank you for the central office organization chart. I think that's really useful for our parents and our families to have. And one other thing now that I can't remember. I have a child here that is trying to go to bed, or trying not to go to bed. Thank you for to all the board members for staying and being at these.
Melinda, you dropped off there. I don't know if you can re-raise your hand. I can re-unmute you. Let's see if I can find her in the... Nope, she's actually completely dropped off the call, unfortunately.
Okay.
Do we have anyone else using the raise your hand button? And that is all. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Kesko.
Yes, I apologize for that. When I was scrolling back through the questions, I neglected to answer Mrs. Huerta's questions. So yes, you know, we moved out very expeditiously in the, though diligently, in the advertising, search, and process to hire Mr. Calavano's successor. However, even in moving with that expedition, there is a slight gap. You know, we will be, our assistant business administrator, Mrs. Flores, will be serving in an acting role for those 2 weeks in that interim until Mrs. Flowers can assume that position. The reason it's a 6-month contract, and Mr. Calavano can correct me if I'm wrong, is that she's starting in the middle of the year. So the contract is just for half the year. And then, you know, she, like any other employee, you know, would be, you know, extended a contract in the spring, you know, and that would be a full year contract for the 21-22 school year. I don't know, Mr. Alper, Ms. Trigg-Scales, do you want to provide an update on negotiations as the negotiations committee?
Sure. We're underway with all 4 bargaining units, the Administrators Association, the Educators Association, and both the full-time and part-time custodial union, Local 68. So we're in progress with all of them. I think COVID has delayed each of them, but all well underway.
Very much underway. We have meetings scheduled as we speak.
Alrighty. Board member reports. Mr. Rothstein.
Thank you very much. Wow, what an extraordinary evening tonight. Any students who are still on the line, I don't remember, and I have not been on the board for a full year yet, but I don't remember hearing so many student voices at a board meeting, and it was really a pleasure to hear from you. The fact that a petition was circulated and somewhere in the area of 1,000 signatures procured in about an hour, that we had so many students speak showing eloquence and leadership. I have no idea whether there's going to be a change in the schedule and what the right thing is to do here. But I just wanted to say to the students out there, I feel really great tonight about what's happening in our families and in our schools and in our democracy on a night like tonight when we hear what happened. So thank you so much for speaking up. Please be patient with the administration. They're working very hard and trying to do the right thing for you in a very complicated situation. You're struggling in a very complicated situation as well. And we're all going to muddle our way through this together, looking out for each other. Keep speaking up, and thank you. And that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Triggs-Gals.
Yes, I too want to just tell the students who were on tonight and the parents who spoke on behalf of their children that we definitely heard you. We definitely heard you. And I think that I'll speak for myself, not for the board, but really feel as if we kind of missed the mark in not surveying all of our stakeholders before we made the change. We were trying to, in our estimation, do the right thing, because when we said we were not going to hybrid, there were voices on that said, well, then you need to up your game, do more than what you're doing. And we started working on that right away. And we should have just paused for a moment and surveyed all of our stakeholders to make sure that all the voices were heard. Again, we're just so pleased that, you know, you spoke up and let us know how you were feeling and what you were feeling. And I can't tell you what the outcome is going to be, but we're going to pause. We're definitely going to pause and pay attention. There were just a couple of other things I wanted to mention, and this is to my board members. We're really due to do our board self-evaluation. And I know, Mr. Alper, you had said we were going to wait, but I think time is of the essence as we're approaching the end of this year. So I hope that we can get that scheduled. We all work very, very hard, but we really need to step back and see what we've done well, where there's room for improvement. Everybody gets evaluated in everything they do. And so the board is accountable to itself as well as to the community and the stakeholders that we serve. So I hope that we can get that scheduled very soon. And I think that's it for me.
All right, Ms. Merkel.
So just a couple things. Definitely, big thank you to everyone that called in tonight and voiced their concerns. We definitely heard you, and we'll take that feedback into consideration, I'm sure. But I did want to recognize that next week, or this week, I should say, November 6th through the 20th is American Education Week. So I want to thank all of our faculty and recognize them for everything that they're doing for our public school system and students. Just amazing things that go on, and I look forward to seeing what some of our breakout rooms, what they're doing, and I hope we can bring that into one of our Board of Ed meetings to get to view some of the work and projects that our students are working on, music, everything. I think that'll be great. So definitely a big thank you to our faculty and staff. I want to recognize our boys soccer team is in the state quarterfinals tomorrow at 4 o'clock against Columbia, and Wednesday our girls are also in the states, and they take on North Bergen at 2 p.m. I also want to recognize our football team. Unfortunately, they didn't get to play Union City this past week, but they do have Clifton coming up on Friday. And I just want to recognize the great lengths that our coaches and faculty are all doing to ensure the safety of all of our athletes and extracurricular activities. Knock on wood, we've been fortunate that our students, unlike some of the other schools that we've played, have had to quarantine their teams and take time off. And our teams, our athletes, our coaches have been so dedicated to following all the safety protocols and even enforcing additional layers of safety that are not required by whether it's the UCA or the NJSIA or the CDC, that we've taken it to another level just to ensure that our athletes are safe at all times. So I just wanted to recognize that because that is a huge accomplishment. And I just wanted to make sure that they were recognized for that. And I also want to recognize that our condolences and our hearts go out to some of the families in our community that are suffering right now, especially the Callie family. And what a great thing our community has always done, which is to come together to help support those families. And I apologize, I can't think of the other family off the top of my head, and I don't have it written down in front of me. But I do, thank those families that have signed up to, whether it's the GoFundMe's or to sign up for the meals. And I just wanted to recognize that as well.
Thank you, Ms. Tunnicliffe.
Thank you, Mr. Albert. Yes, I'm incredibly impressed with so many of the students who came out tonight to express your feelings about the possible change to a schedule. And we really are listening. And I think, as Dr. Cascone has always said, we try to get feedback and then with that, try to make changes incrementally to make to kind of address as many needs as we can. We realize we can't be everything to everyone, but we are listening, and we do appreciate all of you who came out and shared your thoughts with us tonight. And if I can add another agenda item for us for the board, I think we had talked, one of our goals was to talk about doing a town hall around the budget as well. So something else that we may need to schedule before the end of the year. So, and that's it. And thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you. And yeah, I'll echo that, and thank everybody for their comments and their passion, and for reaching out. It's the right way to do these things. It's tough because we clearly have heard messages that it's the experience is maybe not even for everyone, right? That we're hearing that some people are very much overworked and have been very much overworked. And it's possible that the stacked lab schedule on Friday is actually part of that for some folks, while we're definitely hearing from other folks, and at all grade levels, not just lower, that, I'm seeing in my own house, in some cases, there's a lot less work happening. And, it's a challenge. We have to make sure that we're providing, obviously virtual is not going to look the same as in person, but, when we had to make this most recent pivot from not being able to come back from hybrid to having to stay virtual for some, unknown time until the metrics are, workable, I think there were some real concerns. And I think, despite what we've heard tonight, which I believe 100% to be true, but despite what we heard tonight, those concerns are still there. They're still real. They still exist. Not everyone is having the same experience. And, I think for some people, 4 half days is clearly not enough instruction, and we need to do something about live Fridays as opposed to on-demand Fridays in at least those cases, or at least it certainly seemed that way. So, obviously there's some more discussion that the administration is going to have and figure out what works and what doesn't. But, that's what the perspective has been on this, I think. So with that, our next board meeting is scheduled for 7:30 p.m. on December 7th, right here on the internet. And we need to go back to closed session to finish a discussion we were having before we came into open. So I'll need a motion to go into executive.
So moved.
Second.
Right. And I don't think we actually even vote on that, as I recall, but we are off to executive. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to clarify, are you coming back out?
No. We're done. Public is over, and we're going to wrap up what we were discussing earlier, which no action will be taken is the official language on that.
Okay, and that's on your separate executive call.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Okay. And that does end the public meeting, and have a great night, everyone. Thank you.